The school beauty has secretly loved me for 3 years since my rebirth. Chapter 1, Rebirth 20 years ago. Shen Chen was groggily sleeping when a sudden loud and crude shout pierced his ears. "Dammit! Orange, are you asleep again?" It was the voice of his childhood friend, Fang Zhilong, nicknamed Big Dragon. Without even opening his eyes, Shen Chen instinctively replied, "Big Dragon, who the hell do you think you're talking to?" But as soon as the words left his mouth, something felt off. Wait a second. A few years ago, Big Dragon had passed away from lung cancer. Then who had just spoken? Shen Chen struggled to open his eyes. In an instant, the surroundings came into focus. The room was smoky, and the air was thick with the haze of old CRT monitors. Many people sat at their desks, completely engrossed in their screens. Some were playing Counter-Strike, others were engaged in StarCraft, and some were mindlessly typing on the ancient QQ chat interface, asking, "Are you GG or millimeter?" Shen Chen's pupils dilated in surprise. This place, it felt so much like the Tianqing internet cafe he frequented more than 10 years ago. Moreover, these CRT monitors should have been long outdated by now, right? In disbelief, Shen Chen rubbed his eyes and pinched his thigh hard. "What the hell are you pinching me for?" A young man with dyed yellow hair sitting next to him, holding a cigarette, glared at him and said, "You fell asleep playing CS, and now you're pinching my leg when you wake up. Got a death wish? Big Dragon. Are you crazy or something? You don't recognize me anymore." Shen Chen froze for a few seconds, and then it hit him. His heart began to race. "Big Dragon, what's today's date?" "I don't remember, why don't you check it on the computer?" the other person replied impatiently. Shen Chen's throat tightened, and he quickly clicked on the bottom right corner of the screen. May 13, 2001, Sunday. 1915. At the same time, the long-forgotten memories deep in his mind slowly began to resurface. It was real. This wasn't a dream. He had actually gone back to 20 years ago. At this moment, all the regrets hadn't happened yet. Everything could start over. Suddenly remembering something, Shen Chen jumped up and hurriedly ran to the front desk, leaving Big Dragon, who was busy in a firefight in Counter-Strike, behind. He paid for his time, then rushed out of the internet cafe. It was evening. The streets of Chu City in the early 2000s still appeared narrow and chaotic. The urban planning and green spaces were nothing like the future decades. The atmosphere was rough, filled with the unrefined hustle and bustle, yet there was an inexplicable sense of nostalgia and warmth. But Shen Chen had no time to appreciate the scene. He hopped on his bike and furiously pedaled toward home. Soon, he arrived at an old residential area. Shen Chen's parents had worked at a large steel factory in the area, and this neighborhood was the workers' housing district. A few years ago, the factory underwent a restructuring, and many workers were laid off. Shen Chen's parents used their connections to retire early and opened a noodle shop nearby. Shen Chen's father was skilled, had good connections, and was hardworking, so the noodle shop business was decent. Starting from 1999, the stock market in China experienced a small bull market, rising from just over 600 points to more than 2,000 points. Shen Chen's uncle, Shen Huasheng, made a lot of money in the stock market and convinced Shen Chen's parents to lend him their savings to invest in stocks. Shen Chen's parents had always been honest and didn't understand the stock market. They trusted their relative's assurances that it would be a profitable investment. They borrowed a substantial sum, over 100,000 yuan, about the equivalent of over $1 million in today's money. However, just a month later, the stock market crashed. Shen Huasheng had invested heavily in stocks at the peak and ended up getting stuck in deep losses. At the end of the year, Shen Chen's father suddenly had an accident. The gas canister at the noodle shop exploded, injuring him severely and requiring a large amount of money for medical treatment. Shen Chen's mother asked Shen Huasheng to return the money, at least part of it, to help pay for the medical bills. "Sister-in-law, I'm really sorry. But the stock market has fallen so much, I've lost everything. I really can't return any money now. Investment comes with risks, you can't just expect profits without bearing the risks, right?" Shen Huasheng said with an expression of, "There's nothing I can do." Shen Chen's mother was so furious that she nearly passed out, and she spent half the night crying at home. Later, she went back several times to ask for the money, but every time she returned empty-handed. Whenever Shen Chen thought back on this, his anger would flare up. And today, it was the day Shen Huasheng would come asking for money again. This time, Shen Chen was determined not to let that bastard cheat his parents out of another cent. The newly built Xinjiayuan community was poorly planned, with narrow alleyways separating the concrete buildings. Shen Chen weaved through the alley, making his way to an old building. He parked his bike beside it, then hurried up the stairs, taking 2 steps at a time. When he reached the 3rd floor and saw the familiar old iron security door, his eyes suddenly felt a bit warm. From the moment he could remember, he had grown up here. A small apartment of just over 40 square meters held all his childhood memories and his entire youth. It was the most peaceful and warm part of his memories, a place he could never forget. However, after his father's accident, in order to raise money for medical expenses, the house had been sold at a very low price. Even though many years had passed, late at night, he still dreamt of this place, but he could never return. Not dwelling on the past too long, he took out his keys from his bag and unlocked the door. As soon as he opened the door, he heard Shen Huosheng's voice coming from inside. The stock market has risen to 2,000 points this month. I made over 2,000 yuan, more than my 3-month salary. I have a friend working at a securities company, and he gave me insider info. By the end of the year, the stock market will hit 3,000 points, and next year, it will reach 5,000 points. Don't worry, buying stocks now is a guaranteed profit. Shen Chen pushed the door open and entered. At the sound of the door opening, the 2 middle-aged men sitting on the couch in the living room looked up. The man on the right, slightly overweight with a simple, good-natured expression, was Shen Chen's father, Shen Yaosheng. When their eyes met, Shen Chen suddenly felt a lump in his throat. 20 years. He never imagined he'd get to see his father again. But being an adult, he quickly suppressed his tears. So, it's you, Shen Chen. Shen Huosheng greeted with a wide smile. Time flies. I still remember when you were born. Now, you've grown tall and handsome. By the way, I heard from your dad that you're attending experimental high school. Good, that's a great school. Their college admission rate has been pretty high these past few years. Studying is useless if you don't put in the effort. No matter how good the school, it won't make a difference. Shen Yaosheng shook his head, then looked at his son and asked, "Where did you run off to again?" As usual, Shen Chen replied with a smile, "I was at the internet cafe playing games." Always playing games. Shen Yaosheng shook his head in resignation. His son was smart but always too playful, never focused. He didn't know when he would finally grow up. Kids are like that, they'll understand when they grow older, Shen Huosheng said with a smile. Shen Chen, why don't you go to your room for now? Your dad and I need to discuss. Before he could finish his sentence, Shen Chen suddenly shouted, "Dad, I'm hungry." Chapter 2, Do you think I'm an idiot or a scammer? Your mom is in the kitchen making dinner, said Shen Yaosheng. I'll chat with your uncle for a bit. Shen Chen walked over and sat down beside him, putting his hand on his shoulder with an expectant tone. Dad, I want to eat something you made yourself. Can I? Shen Yaosheng sensed that something was a little off with his son's attitude today, but the affection Shen Chen showed made him feel a warm surge of emotion. How long had it been since his son had been this close to him? Okay, I'll cook myself. Huosheng, you sit down for now. We'll talk more after dinner, he said to Shen Huosheng before getting up and heading for the kitchen. Soon, the dining table was filled with dishes, each one fragrant and appetizing. All right, here's the last dish, Shen's mother, Shu Hongxia, said as she brought out a bowl of pork bone soup with lotus root. Shen Chen hurriedly went over to take the soup bowl from her hands. Mom, be careful, it's hot. Let me take it. Shu Hongxia was both surprised and happy. Oh, what's going on today? The sun must have risen in the west. Shen Chen smiled. I'll help you more from now on. Shen Huosheng immediately praised him. Look at Xiao Chen, really grown up, he's starting to care for his mom. Shu Hongxia's face beamed with joy, but she still said, this child usually just eats and waits for food to be served, not sure what happened today. Shen Yaosheng came out at that moment, calling to his brother, Huosheng, come on, it's time to eat. Everyone sat down at the table. Shen Chen immediately grabbed a large piece of steamed pork from the platter. His father's steamed pork was a signature dish. The pork, with just the right balance of fat and lean, was wrapped in homemade steamed meat flour and steamed in a bamboo basket for an hour. After being steamed, the lean pork was tender and fragrant, the fatty pieces translucent and melting in the mouth. The steamed meat flour soaked up the savory oil, and the dish was paired with taro, which was sweet, fragrant, and helped cut the grease simply delicious beyond description. Shen Chen devoured 2 pieces of the steamed pork and reached for the soup. In his rush, he forgot to let the soup cool, and when he took a sip, it burned his mouth, causing him to gasp. His eyes suddenly filled with moisture. It was all so familiar, the taste, the feeling. How long has it been since you ate like this? Why are you in such a hurry? Can't you wait for the soup to cool down? What if you burn your throat? Xu Hongxia started to scold him, but when she saw the redness around his eyes, she assumed it was from the heat and immediately softened her tone. Drink slowly, no one's going to fight you for it. Eat some dishes first. She then picked up some food to serve him. Shen Chen listened to her and felt a sense of warmth, like hearing the sweetest melody. While they ate, Shen Huoxin continued to chat with Shen Yaoxin. After a while, he couldn't resist steering the conversation back to the topic of stocks. By the way, bro, about the stocks I mentioned earlier, what do you think? Shen Yaoxin was momentarily stunned. Sounds pretty good, but I don't really know anything about stocks. Shen Huoxin put down his chopsticks, his face full of sincerity. Don't worry about it. You just need to lend me the money, and I'll handle it. By the end of the year, I'll guarantee at least a 30% return. You'll just sit back and count the money. Seeing that Shen Yaoxin hesitated, Shen Huoxin continued with smooth words, look, Xiao Chen is getting older. He'll be in college soon, and eventually, he'll graduate, get married, and buy a house. All those things need money. Your noodle shop business is doing well, but more money never hurts. Now there's such a great opportunity right in front of you. Why hesitate? Shen Yaoxin seemed a little moved. You make a good point. Uncle Hua, what opportunity? Shen Chen asked, pretending to be curious. Shen Huoxin thought for a moment and figured there was no harm in telling Shen Chen. Young people were often swayed by the promise of making money, and it might help him persuade Shen Yaoxin. Stocks, you know, he said, smiling. I've made some money in the stock market, and I want to bring your dad in to make some too. Stocks? I know about them, Shen Chen replied with a smile. I've watched the great era. Shen Huoxin didn't pick up on his hidden meaning and nodded. Yeah, that TV show was good, Jing Xiaoqiu was great in it. By the way, bro, what do you think? The last part was directed at Shen Yaoxin. Shen Chen jumped in. Uncle Hua, the stock market is risky. In the TV show, Ding Xie lost everything and jumped off a building. When Shen Yaoxin heard this, he fell into deeper hesitation. He was an honest man who preferred to earn money through steady work, so the stock market didn't appeal to him much. Shen Huoxin was momentarily stunned but quickly laughed. Xiao Chen has a good sense of risk. Don't worry, Uncle has connections in the securities company. He told me this bull market will last until next year. There's no risk now. If you miss this opportunity, it would be a huge waste. Shen Chen feigned surprise. Really? That sounds great, but my dad doesn't understand stocks. He doesn't even know how to buy and sell them. It's simple. You just lend me the money, and I'll handle it for you. By the end of the year, I guarantee a 30% return. 30%. Do you know how much that is? Invest 10,000 yuan, and by the end of the year, it'll easily turn into 13,000. Then your dad can buy you the latest MP3 player. Shen Chen took a sip of soup and smiled. You mean an MP3 player, right? Yeah, that's it. It's great for learning English, very trendy. Shen Huoxin said, his saliva flying. I bought one for our Xiao Chao, and his English score improved by several points. Shen Chen feigned disbelief. Wow, is it really that good? Shen Huoxin smiled broadly. It's all family, that's why I'm telling you this. When your dad makes money, just give me a little bonus. Shen Yaoxin was a bit tempted. Well, that's not impossible. Shen Huoxin was about to press his advantage when Shen Chen took another bite of food and casually said, but what if it ends up losing money? Uncle, do you also share in the loss? Shen Yaoxin froze. What if they lost money? Shen Huoxin was taken aback. How could it lose money in a sure thing? Shen Chen casually replied, I've heard that if anyone tells you there's a surefire way to make money, they are either an idiot or a scammer. Shen Huoxin. His face turned red. Do you think I'm an idiot or a scammer? Shen Chen sneered but didn't answer. Shen Yaoxing shot Shen Chen a glare. How can you talk to your uncle like that? But the temptation he had felt earlier had already faded. Xu Hongxue stepped in to diffuse the tension. The food's getting cold. Let us eat first. During the meal, Shen Huoxing tried again to steer the conversation toward borrowing money, but Shen Chen switched the TV to the evening news. My teacher says watching the news is good for political studies and understanding the world. Shen Huoxing tried several more times to bring the conversation back to money, but Shen Chen kept interrupting with, "Don't talk, I'm watching the news." After the meal, Shen Huoxing didn't stay for long and said he was leaving. Shen Yaoxing, understanding that he wouldn't be getting the money, politely sent him off without any attempt to stop him. After Shen Huoxing left, Xu Hongxue turned to Shen Yaoxing. I think our son makes a good point. I'm not talking behind people's backs, but your brother is really sharp. He's always calculating things down to the smallest detail, and if there's a loss, he'll keep quiet and let us take all the risk. I don't think the stock market is risk-free, it's just that he benefits no matter what. Shen Yaoxing. Shen Chen, who had been watching TV, spoke calmly. Dad, I've been watching the news, and they keep talking about financial bubbles. The government might step in to regulate the stock market, and it feels like there's a lot of risk. Our noodle shop business is doing great. There's no need to dive into that mess. Shen Yaoxing thought for a moment. That's true, maybe we should forget about it. Shen Chen knew that his words had gotten through, so he stretched lazily. I'm going back to my room. In the kitchen, Xu Hongxue couldn't help but whisper to Shen Yaoxing, Honey, don't you think our son is a little different today? Shen Yaoxing picked up a bowl and casually asked, Different how? Xu Hongxue chattered on, He's talking and acting like an adult. Normally, he'd just watch cartoons or TV dramas when he came back. He never watched the news. And today, everything he said made sense. Your sharp brother couldn't even argue with him. Shen Yaoxing chuckled. Our child is growing up. It's a good thing. We'll have less to worry about. Less to worry about. You should be the one worrying. Xu Hongxue teasingly tossed her apron at him. If it weren't for our son today, you might have fallen into your brother's trap. You're not even half as smart as him. You're washing the dishes today. Shen Yaoxing wasn't upset at all. Sure. He's just like you, all right. Fine, I'll wash them. Shen Chen's room was small, only about 7 or 8 square meters. It had a single bed, 2 small bookshelves, a desk and chair, a set of Dragon Ball comics from Hainan, a few old cassettes, and a wooden guitar beside the bed. He sat at the desk, pulled out a notebook and pen, and began to organize his thoughts. Chapter 3, What's your zodiac sign? Shen Chen lightly pursed his lips and carefully wrote in his notebook. Step 1, stop my father from getting hurt. This is the root of all the tragedies. Step 2, get into a satisfactory university. In my past life, one of my biggest regrets was being too playful and not studying seriously. It was only after my parents' accident that I woke up to the importance of education, but because of life's pressures, no matter how hard I tried, I could only get into a third-tier university. This time, I can't let my parents' expectations down. Step 3, help everyone I cherish find happiness. What doesn't kill me will only make me stronger. Shen Chen murmured softly. The next morning, when Shen Chen woke up, his parents had already gone to the store as usual, and breakfast was left for him on the table. Shen Chen ate quickly and then rode his bicycle to school. Last night, he had made an incredibly detailed plan for his future and stayed up until the early hours to finish it. Along the way, he was full of ambition, his mind constantly picturing a bright future. However, once he arrived at school, his fantasy was abruptly shattered. At the experimental high school, Class 1-3, during English class, the class monitor, Song Siyu, a delicate-looking girl with a few small moles on her pale face, was collecting homework. When she got to Shen Chen, she whispered to him. Shen Chen, your English homework. Shen Chen froze. Huh. Wait, there's homework. How did he forget about that? Shen Chen immediately felt exhausted and frustrated. But homework had to be done. Studying hard was also an important part of his plan. Chen Ji, I've done it, you can copy mine, his deskmate, Cai Bao, eagerly offered with a flattering smile. Get lost, Shen Chen replied curtly. Cai Bao was the lowest ranked student in the entire grade. What was he thinking trying to copy his homework? Shen Chen glanced around and reached out to grab the bespectacled boy sitting diagonally in front of him. His tone was gentle. Top student, can I borrow your homework to reference? The bespectacled boy, too nervous to refuse, obediently handed over his notebook. There was a rumor going around at the experimental high school that Shen Chen, despite being a student in class 1-3, was on close terms with several local troublemakers and gangsters. Although he was somewhat obedient in school, outside of it, he was involved in all sorts of vices: gambling, drinking, fighting, smoking, everything. He had quite a notorious reputation. But Shen Chen had no idea about these rumors. Seeing how the top student complied so easily, he patted his shoulder with a smile. You're a good guy, thanks. The top student thought to himself, did the school bully just thank me? Should I be flattered? Cai Bao leaned over again. Chen Ji, want me to help you copy a little? Shen Chen was too lazy to respond, quickly scribbling down his homework while wondering to himself when Xiaoran would arrive. Meanwhile, in class 1-4. Amid the sound of students reading aloud, their homeroom teacher, Cao Ying, opened the door and entered the classroom. She was around 40 years old, with deep laugh lines and a serious expression. Cao Ying cleared her throat, and the class instantly quieted down. Class, today we have a new student joining us, she said. And Xiaoran, please come up and introduce yourself. A figure stepped out from behind her, and all the students' eyes turned toward her. It was a girl, around 15 or 16, with dark, shiny hair tied up behind her. Her small face was as smooth as fine porcelain, her lips slightly curled into a gentle smile. Even her oversized school uniform couldn't hide her graceful figure. She looked like a delicate gardenia just about to bloom. Especially those eyes of hers, slightly lowered, with large pupils of amber color, and a tiny, perfect teardrop-shaped mole at the corner of her eye. So beautiful. All the students couldn't help but gasp in unison. The girl walked to the front of the classroom, nervously tugging at the edge of her school uniform, and gave a shy smile. Her soft voice echoed, "Hello, everyone. My name is Xiaoran. I'm very happy to be part of class 1-4, and I hope we can all become friends." The classroom erupted into enthusiastic applause. Cao Ying pointed to an empty seat next to a petite girl with twin pigtails. "And Xiaoran, you can sit there." And Xiaoran walked over and sat down, and Cao Ying left the classroom, telling everyone to continue studying. As soon as the bell for morning self-study ended, the girl with twin pigtails immediately reached out her hand to Xiaoran, smiling warmly. "Welcome. I'm Luo Li." And Xiaoran seemed a little unprepared for her enthusiasm. She froze for a second before shaking Luo Li's hand. Then she shyly smiled, her voice soft and sweet. "Hi, I'm also happy to meet you." Her smile was gentle, her little deer eyes curving slightly. The new studentess smile is so sweet, so cute. Her voice is also so nice. It's like strawberry milk-flavored ice cream." Luo Li's heart melted. At that moment, the other students gathered around Xiaoran, curious and bombarding her with questions. "And Xiaoran, what school did you come from? Are you from Chusha? Where do you live? What do you like to do in your free time?" One of the boys asked, "What is your zodiac sign?" Chapter 4, For the Better Construction of Our Motherland. And Xiaoran was startled and instinctively stepped behind the girl named Luo Li. Seeing the new student's shy appearance, Luo Li immediately felt a strong sense of protectiveness. Like a mother hen guarding her chick, she spread her arms to shield Xiaoran and puffed out her cheeks, glaring with wide eyes as she loudly said, Hey, why are you asking so many questions? Are you from the police station checking household registrations? What if you scare the new student? And you why ask about her zodiac sign? Why not ask me, huh? I'm a Leo. The others, who cares about you?" Luo Li patted Xiaoran's slender arm, reassuring her, "Don't be nervous. Everyone in our class is nice. If anything happens, I'll protect you. No one dares to bully you." "Yeah, right. With your height of 1.50 meters, who are you going to protect?" A teasing voice came from somewhere, light-hearted but still a bit sarcastic. Luo Li shook her head and said seriously, HMPH, size doesn't matter. You guys wouldn't understand. I'm still growing, I'll get taller. Har. As she looked at all the smiling, friendly faces around her, and Xiaoran's nervousness slowly faded. She didn't like being the center of attention, but she could feel everyone's kindness. She didn't want to disappoint their goodwill. Although she transferred to this school because of Shen Chen, friendship, too, was a valuable gain. It's okay, I'm just a little shy. I'm fine now, and Xiaoran said, stepping out from behind Luoli, smiling. She continued, I grew up in Chusha, and then I went to Beijing for school. I just transferred back to Chusha recently, and I'm living with my uncle. I like reading, playing the piano, singing, and swimming. During the whole morning self-study, Shen Chen was in full catch-up mode with his homework. When the break bell rang, Cai Bao returned, his eyes full of gossip, rushing up to Shen Chen. Chen Ji, big news. Want to hear it? Shen Chen was still scribbling furiously, fighting to finish the last few essay questions in politics. Without looking up, he replied, no, thanks. Cai Bao went on anyway, I overheard some people from class 4 in the restroom. They said they have a super pretty girl in their class now, like school beauty level. Shen Chen's pen froze. Class 4's new student. A beautiful girl. Could it be in Xiaoran? She transferred from Beijing to experimental high in the second semester of her first year. Her arrival caused a stir because she was so pretty and also an outstanding student, almost flawless. The little girl was polite and shy, terrified of strangers, but for some reason, she seemed to follow Shen Chen everywhere in school, except during class. Her big, doe-like eyes gazed at him, and she repeatedly confessed to him. Shen Chen, I like you. Shen Chen, you're missing an element in your life. Shen Chen, would you be my boyfriend? Over time, Shen Chen began to develop a vague, unspoken fondness for her. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly, and perhaps it would be turned into a typical, happy love story. But then, tragedy struck. His family fell apart, and Shen Chen had to balance studying and working part-time to support himself and his mother. To survive, he did anything, handing out flyers, working construction sites, even climbing skyscrapers to clean windows. Anything that earned money, he did it, no matter how tiring, pushing through with grit and endurance. He was just 17 then. Already, he was trudging through life's mud. While his peers were living their youth with studies, relationships, and play, his was filled with sweat and struggle. And Xiaoran had approached him more than once, but he turned her away every time. He told her he didn't like her, that she was annoying, and to stop bothering him. He was too tired just trying to survive, let alone play games with a teenage girl. Most importantly, he knew her family was well off, while he had nothing to offer her. So why start something he couldn't finish? He rejected her kindness and affection, building a high wall with cold indifference and harsh words. Yet, she remained stubborn, refusing to give up, even if it meant injuring herself along the way. I won't give up. If you don't agree, I'll chase you for the rest of my life. As long as you say stay, I can give up everything for you. In the end, Shen Chen succeeded, but she was taken from him years ago in a car accident. She was one of his greatest regrets in his past life. This time, he didn't want to miss her again. Cai Bao clicked his tongue in admiration. Is it really true? Is she that pretty? I need to go check it out myself in class 4. The other boys also looked eager. I want to see too. Let us go, let us check her out. Bang! A large foot kicked Cai Bao in the butt, and he nearly fell flat on his face. Stop fantasizing. Shen Chen raised his head and shot them a cold look. Class is about to start, so sit back down. The boys were immediately intimidated by his cold, indifferent gaze, and hurriedly returned to their seats, sitting upright. Cai Bao mumbled to himself, what's wrong with Chen Ji today? He's so cranky. The first class of the day was math. The math teacher and homeroom teacher, Wang Qiang, stood at the front of the classroom. Class, open your books to page 58. Today, we'll continue discussing logarithmic functions. Shen Chen opened his backpack to grab his textbook, but found that the math book wasn't in there. He silently cursed and reached into his desk drawer to search. After rummaging through a bunch of crumpled papers, a few shriveled orange peels, a cassette tape from Backstreet Boys, and some silver gum wrappers, he finally found the math book from the previous semester. Congratulations, you have found a nearly brand new math textbook X1. He hadn't touched it for half the semester, and it looked almost new. He kept searching through the bag. Congratulations, you have found a crumpled notebook X1. It was surprisingly clean inside, not a single word written. Forget it, I'll make do with this. Shen Chen opened the notebook and started taking notes while listening to the lecture. Cai Bao, who had been yawning, accidentally glanced over at Shen Chen's desk and saw the densely written notes. Suddenly, his sleepiness disappeared. He rubbed his eyes, trying to make sure he wasn't seeing things. Was he seeing things? Chen Ji wasn't just listening attentively, he was actually taking notes. And doing it so seriously. This was magical. Cai Bao looked incredulous and asked in a low voice, "Brother Chen, what are you doing?" "Shut up, don't disturb me studying." Shen Chen said this lightly, and then focused on listening to the class and taking notes. He is not stupid, to be precise, his IQ is quite high. In junior high school, he didn't study hard, but he was still able to get into the top key middle schools in Chu City. After entering the first year of high school, he didn't put 1/10 of his energy into studying, and his grades were always in the middle and lower grades. Their head teacher Wang Cheng talked to him many times about this, but unfortunately he always turned a deaf ear to him in his previous life. Later, he realized how rare it was to enjoy the time of studying wholeheartedly, but it was too late to regret it. Cai Bao. One class, 45 minutes. Cai Bao glanced at Shen Chen from time to time. Brother Chen, who used to read comics or sleep, actually listened to the whole class seriously this time, and took notes. Cai Bao almost suspected that he was dreaming. After the bell rang, as soon as Wang Cheng disappeared, Cai Bao rushed over and grabbed Shen Chen's notebook. It was really the notes of the last class. It was not just scribbling, but also illustrated with pictures and texts. Every knowledge point was marked in detail. Holding the notebook, Cai Bao's expression was dull and his body was shaking exaggeratedly. He felt that his worldview, life view and values were all hit by a landslide. What happened? Could he have traveled to a parallel space? He looked at Shen Chen in horror. "Brother Chen, what has stimulated you? Why do you suddenly love studying so much? Are you possessed?" "Shen Chen, I want to learn, but I can't." "No, this is not the Brother Chen I know." Cai Bao posed in a Taoist exorcism posture common in Hong Kong's supernatural movies, muttering, "Hey, who is this demon? How dare you possess my Brother Chen? Hurry up. Get out." Shen Chen slapped him on the head. Cai Bao covered his forehead. This cold and domineering tone, this just right strength, this soul-filled sense of attack, it's definitely Brother Chen himself. "Brother Chen, why are you so depressed? No, why do you suddenly want to study?" Shen Chen glanced at him. "Why, no. It's not that I can't, it's just. It doesn't fit your identity and temperament as a school bully." Cai Bao said with a chuckle, "There must be a reason, right?" Shen Chen was silent for a few seconds, and said deeply, "To better build the motherland." Chapter 5, Finally, I've seen you again. You don't believe me? Shen Chen glanced at him sideways, speaking lightly, "Next month's exam, I'll rank in the top 300 of the grade and show you." The experimental high school is one of the top schools in Chusha, with 24 classes and nearly 1,300 students in the first year. Historically, about 20% of the students from the first year manage to get into top-tier universities, meaning that ranking in the top 300 of the grade is already considered a good score and shows potential for entering a top university. Of course, this was still far from Shen Chen's ultimate goal. Cai Bao, eager to flatter, said, "I believe you, Brother Chen. You speak with authority, your words are as solid as gold, and I have no reason not to believe you." Yeah, right. But he wasn't dumb. He wasn't about to make trouble and offend Shen Chen. But the bespectacled student in front suddenly turned around, whispering, "The exam is tomorrow, right?" Cai Bao. "Shen Chen. Should I take back what I said?" The bespectacled student adjusted his glasses, staring at the two of them in shock. "You two didn't know about this." As soon as he said that, he saw the dark look on Shen Chen's face, and immediately shivered. "Oops, I spoke too soon." Cough. The top student hesitated, carefully choosing his words. "Well, it's always good to have ideals. Maybe you can aim for the next exam instead." Shen Chen glared at him without expression. "Cai Bao, you're doomed." Top student, trembling in fear. Shen Chen suddenly stood up. The top student instinctively shrank back. "Cai Bao, Brother Chen, don't be impulsive. He asked the teacher's pet. Shen Chen, I'm going to the restroom. Cai Bao, me too, me too. The top student let out a sigh of relief, feeling like he narrowly escaped a disaster. As they passed by the window of class 4, Shen Chen casually glanced inside. It was the break between classes, and it was noisy inside. He didn't spot the person he was hoping to see right away. Shen Chen frowned. Damn. Cai Bao was confused. Brother Chen, what's wrong? Nothing. Let's go. After the first class, Luo Li and two girls from the front row grabbed Xiaoran and went to the restroom. Luo Li was the friendly type. In just a few minutes, she had introduced Xiaoran to everyone. One girl was named Chen Ling, with a delicate oval face and two small tiger teeth when she smiled. The other was Xu Hangli, with big eyes, a high nose, and slightly thicker lips. She had a short haircut similar to Liang Yongqi's. Xu Hangli sized Xiaoran up and said in admiration, "You're really beautiful, and your skin is so good, no pores at all." From a distance, she was already stunning, and up close, she was even more flawless. Chen Ling also looked at her enviously. "And your eyelashes are so long." "They are thick and long, I thought they were fake lashes." Xu Hangli added, "You're taller than both me and Chen Ling, you must be at least 1.7 meters. And your legs are so long." Being showered with compliments, Xiaoran felt a little flustered, her cheeks turning pink, which made her even cuter. Luo Li sighed dramatically. Some people are just born beautiful, blessed by the heavens. When Newer shaped her, she must have paid extra attention. Unlike us, we're basically leftovers. Xiaoran shyly responded, "It's not that exaggerated. I think you both are very beautiful too, and I used to be very ugly when I was little." Luo Li raised her eyebrows. "How ugly were you?" "I was dark and chubby, with acne on my face, the boys even called me fatty. The three girls were shocked. "Really? You're not kidding us, right?" "I'm serious," Xiaoran said earnestly. Luo Li curiously asked, "Then how did you become so beautiful?" Xiaoran softly explained, "I wasn't very healthy as a child, and the medicine I had to take had hormones in it, so I ended up like that. After I got better, I stopped taking the medication, and slowly I became fairer and thinner." Xu Hangli sighed, "I see. But still, you must have had good genetics. You must have been pretty to begin with." Luo Li clicked her tongue. "If those boys who called you fatty could see you now, they'd probably be slapped in the face." Chen Ling then asked, "By the way, how great must the schools in Beijing be? Why did you come back to Chu City to study?" Before Xiaoran could answer, suddenly, a tall figure appeared in her amber-colored eyes. Though it was just a half-profile, she recognized him instantly. Her heart raced as if it were about to jump out of her chest, and she couldn't help but let out a small, excited "R." It was Shen Chen. Xiaoran's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. She had finally seen him again. Looking at Shen Chen's retreating figure, in that moment, she just wanted to rush over, call out to him, and tell him that, for the past few years, she had always liked him. Just as Xiaoran was about to run after Shen Chen, Luo Li and Chen Ling stopped her. "Where are you going?" "We're about to have class." I. Xiaoran hurriedly turned her head, her gaze unwilling to leave Shen Chen's back. "I saw someone I know." "Someone you know?" Luo Li and the others were surprised. "Someone she knew at Experimental High?" Just then, the bell rang for class. They didn't have time to think about it and pulled Xiaoran back to class. "Look for them later, we need to go back to class. The next class is with the homeroom teacher. If we're late, we're dead." "Right, do you know what nickname our homeroom teacher has?" "The extinct teacher. When she gets angry, it's terrifying. And she hates it when people are late to her class. If anyone is late, they have to stand for the whole class." Xiaoran bit her lip, feeling wronged, and followed them back to class. Shen Chen. Next time she would definitely seize the opportunity. The second class of the day was Chinese. After the second class in the morning, there was a 20-minute break for physical exercises. As soon as the bell rang, the students sluggishly filed out. Shen Chen followed the crowd to the area for class 3 but forgot where he was supposed to be. He casually stood behind Cai Bao, and the sports monitor didn't dare to correct him, letting him be. Students were gradually filling the field. Shen Chen's eyes quickly scanned the area and soon spotted the class for section. His gaze swept over, but there was no sign of her. Had she not come out yet? He turned his attention to the stairwell. A few seconds later, he saw a few girls appear at the top of the stairs. There were 4 of them, and Xiaoran was the second one from the right. Her white and blue striped oversized school uniform was loose and shapeless, but somehow she wore it with a cute, lively charm. A breeze ruffled her fringe, and a few strands of hair swayed gently in the wind. Her brows and eyes were like a picture, like a little fairy who had just flown out of a fairy tale book. Shen Chen's heart skipped 2 beats. And Xiaoran, I've finally seen you again. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the crowd. It was clear that many people had noticed in Xiaoran too. Chapter 6. She has never forgotten him. Brother Chen, look over there. Cai Bao's eyes were wide open, and he pointed at Xiaoran excitedly. Fuck, this girl is the transfer student I mentioned before, right? She is so beautiful, just like the face of first love. Oh. I am moved. Shen Chen wanted to strangle this bastard who coveted his friend's wife on the spot. Cai Bao didn't notice that the air pressure around him was getting lower and lower, but became more and more excited. He pulled Shen Chen's sleeve and started to be crazy. Hey, is she looking at us? Could it be that she fell in love with me at first sight? The school prohibits early love. What should I do? Should I half push and half succeed or keep my virginity? Push your sister. Shen Chen couldn't bear it anymore, and kicked him away. If you say another word, I will make you shut up for the rest of your life. Cai Bao shuddered and immediately shut his mouth tightly. It's over, Brother Chen is not right today. He was fine just now, what happened to make him angry? Alas, they say that women's hearts are as deep as the sea, but I didn't expect that Brother Chen's heart is so hard to predict. And Xiaoran followed Luo Li, Chen Ling and others, while looking around in the crowd with her big eyes. Suddenly, she couldn't move. She covered her mouth with her hand, and her vision became blurry. It was Shen Chen. It was him. The first time she saw Shen Chen was 3 years ago. She was in the 1st grade of junior high school. At that time, her mother was seriously ill and was bedridden. Because of her poor health, she took medicine for a long time, grew dark and fat, and had acne on her face, and was bullied by classmates at school. Maybe it wasn't as serious as bullying. Those boys just teased her deliberately, such as tearing her books, accidentally dirtying her homework, and often making fun of her face and figure, calling her fat woman an ugly bitch. That period was the most inferior and darkest days in her life. Once after school, 2 boys from the same class snatched her school bag. They laughed and made her chase them. She cried and begged, but they refused to return the school bag to her. A boy from the same school happened to pass by and helped her get the school bag back. He kicked the 2 boys one by one. The 2 boys were obviously afraid of him. They cried and begged for mercy and ran away. He came over and handed the school bag to her. He also said to her, I am Shen Chen from class 9. If they bully you again, tell me. She took the school bag and didn't dare to look up, fearing that her ugliness would disgust him. But she saw the boy's rebellious and flying appearance from the corner of her eyes. He asked, did you hear it? She couldn't open her mouth, but just nodded vigorously. When she remembered that she hadn't said thank you yet, she finally mustered up the courage and looked up, but found that Shen Chen had gone far away. He left, but left a ray of light in her dark days. She began to pay attention to Shen Chen quietly. His every move quietly plucked the girl's heartstrings. She didn't ask for anything, just wanted to watch him from afar. Not long after, her mother passed away. But later, her father took her to the capital. This time, he stayed there for 3 years. She never forgot him. And Xiaoran's memories were interrupted when her arm was suddenly pulled by someone. Xiaoran, what are you looking at? Why don't you leave? It was Luo Li who pulled her. She looked in the direction of Xiaoran's sight with a puzzled look. Then, she and Shen Chen met each other's eyes. The boy was very handsome, with sword-like eyebrows, star-like eyes, high nose and thin lips, and extremely 3-dimensional facial features, especially the narrow and upturned corners of his eyes with a bit of rebelliousness, cold and unruly eyes, and a few traces of depth beyond his peers, with an indescribable charm. But Luo Li didn't notice the handsome boy's crazy love at all. Instead, she pulled Xiaoran away in panic. Don't dawdle, the break exercise is about to start. After several girls entered the team of class 4, she stood on tiptoe and jumped and looked out, until she saw that Shen Chen was not looking here. She breathed a sigh of relief. Xu Hangli asked, "What are you doing?" Luo Li didn't answer, but asked in Xiaoran with a serious face, "You were just looking at the tall, handsome, but a little fierce boy in class 3. Tall, handsome, and a little fierce." The girl's mind automatically appeared Shen Chen's unruly and handsome face. She should be referring to Shen Chen, right? The girl nodded blankly. Luo Li rubbed her brows and said earnestly, "Xiao Ran, you just transferred here and don't know. I just want to remind you, don't mess with him." "And Xiao Ran, why?" Luo Li put one hand to her mouth and said mysteriously, "I heard that he is a gangster outside, beat up many people, and is very arrogant. No one in our school dares to mess with him." And Xiaoran opened her eyes slightly. "No, Shen Chen is not that kind of person. Her boy is the best person in the world. He will help a girl he doesn't know to snatch her school bag back and drive away those who laugh at her. She has also seen him climb a tree at risk just to save a kitten trapped in the tree. He will take the initiative to help the elderly with limited mobility, and will also hold an umbrella for a stray cat for half a day in a storm. Although he seems indifferent and unruly, he hides a soft and warm childlike heart. They don't understand him. No. It's not what you think." She was about to defend Shen Chen when Cao Ying, the head teacher of class 4, who was called Mistress Mihu, came over. She had a stern face and her eyes were as sharp as a knife. "The flag is about to be raised, and you guys are still chattering. What's so important? Why don't you tell Teacher Cao?" No. Several girls, including An Xiaoran, were so scared that their heads almost dropped to the soles of their feet. They stood straight and dared not move. Cao Ying stared at them for a long time before humming and leaving. After the flag-raising ceremony, it was radio gymnastics. How could Shen Chen remember the movements of radio gymnastics? He just watched An Xiaoran from a distance and paddled the whole time. Fortunately, he was perfunctory in doing the exercises in the past, so he didn't attract anyone's attention. In his eyes, An Xiaoran's movements were particularly cute. Everyone was doing the same radio gymnastics, which was just as simple as raising hands and kicking legs. Why was it that my little girl was doing it so pleasing to the eye? After the break, the students returned to the classroom one after another. In front of Cao Ying, An Xiaoran did not dare to look for Shen Chen. She could only comfort herself quietly in her heart that there was still a long time to go and she would have time to look for him during the next break. Unexpectedly, the teacher delayed the third class and she had to miss the opportunity again. It was finally the last class. As soon as the bell rang, the students rushed out of the classroom like the wind. Chapter 7. Hello, my name is An Xiaoran. An Xiaoran was also pulled by Luo Li and ran all the way to the cafeteria. The campus of the experimental high school was newly built, so there were not many small restaurants around. Therefore, most students could only choose the cafeteria. Fortunately, the canteen is large and bright, with a wide variety of food, good taste, and not expensive. It can be said that the price-performance ratio is very high, especially the signature dish, braised pork, which was sold out in a short time. "Xiaoran, let me tell you, the braised pork in our canteen is especially delicious. If you go a little later, you won't be able to buy it," Luo Li said anxiously while running. And Xiaoran ran after her and laughed. She thought it was very funny. Luo Li was not tall, just over 1.5 meters, and her legs were naturally not too long, but she ran very fast now. It seems that whenever she encounters the word eat, foodies can burst out with much stronger potential than ordinary people. It was meal time, and the first grade classroom was the farthest from the canteen. Therefore, although several girls ran to the canteen at the fastest speed, there were still a lot of people inside. I only heard the canteen aunt shouting with a full voice, "The last 2 servings of braised pork. Hurry up if you want it." Fuck. The last 2 servings. Lori was shocked. It's only been a while since the get out of class ended, how come there are only the last 2 portions of braised pork left? It sold out too quickly. She looked again and her heart was lifted. There were still 2 people queuing at the window selling meat dishes, don't let them be sold out. So, Luo Li pulled An Xiaoran to the window selling braised pork and shouted from a distance, braised pork, we want to eat braised pork. Auntie, please leave some for us. The 2 people in front don't buy braised pork. Please. Please. At the window, Shen Chen subconsciously turned his head and looked at the shout. At this time, Cai Bao was about to hand out his and Shen Chen's plates, and said to the cafeteria auntie, Auntie, we want 2 braised. Give him a braised chicken nugget. Shen Chen interrupted him and said, I want a potato beef. Cai Bao looked at Shen Chen with a confused face. Brother Chen, didn't you just say you wanted to eat braised pork? Shen Chen said indifferently, I don't want to eat it now. Cai Bao, if you don't eat it, then I will eat it. Shen Chen, you don't want to eat it either. Cai Bao? I want to eat it. No, you don't. Shen Chen looked at him threateningly. Cai Bao shuddered. The cafeteria auntie knocked on the dish basin with a spoon impatiently. Hey, have you discussed it? What do you want? Cai Bao handed over the plate aggrievedly, 1 braised chicken nugget, 1 potato beef. Sadness flowed like a river in his heart. Alas, his braised pork. The two of them finished the dishes and turned around with the plates. At this time, and Xiaoran also saw Shen Chen. She was stunned for a moment, her lips moved slightly, and before she could say the word Shen Chen, she was pulled to the window by Luo Li, who was heading straight for the braised pork and ignored everyone else. She turned her head and looked at Shen Chen eagerly. I really want to find him. Hee, I'm so lucky, there's braised pork. Luo Li didn't pay any attention to her at all, she was so happy. Auntie, give us 2 servings of braised pork. Cai Bao also saw in Xiaoran. He was stunned for a moment. Isn't this the transfer student from class 4? Damn, it looks better up close. When I thought that the braised pork I gave up was eaten by this beautiful girl like a fairy, I suddenly felt less unhappy. However, why is this girl staring at Brother Chen? Could it be? She fell in love with Brother Chen at first sight. Cai Bao was not surprised at all. Alas, who made Brother Chen so handsome that even the current school idols can't compare to him? Even though there are all kinds of legends about Brother Chen in the school, there are still many little girls who are confused by this face and have expressed their affection to Brother Chen more or less, but unfortunately Brother Chen ignores them. Even sneered, what's the point of girls? Are comics interesting, basketball and games fun? After this, no girl dared to challenge him anymore. Whenever he thought of this, Cai Bao felt heartbroken. What's so good about a straight man like Brother Chen? It's better to like me. These girls only look at faces, they are really too short-sighted. Childish. Superficial. Lori took Xiaoran to get another vegetarian dish and a bowl of seaweed soup. Then, she looked around and saw Chen Ling and Xu Hanli in the corner. She said excitedly, let's go, let's eat with Chen Ling and the others. Lori walked over with a plate, and Chen Ling and Xu Hanli also saw her. The two asked, Lori, why are you alone? Where's Xiaoran? Lori. She looked back and was so scared that she almost dropped the plate. And Xiaoran, who was following her, was walking towards another table without knowing when. And sitting at that table was Shen Chen. Lori was scared to death. What was she going to do? Is she going to find Shen Chen? Is she crazy? And Xiaoran didn't seem to hear anything at all, and her steps didn't stop at all. Cai Bao nudged Shen Chen with his elbow in astonishment. Brother Chen, look. This girl, is she really interested in Brother Chen? Shen Chen, what are you looking at? Eat your meal. He knew the girl would come over. According to the development of the previous life, the first meeting between the two was in the cafeteria. That time, the little girl sat opposite him, smiled at him cautiously, and said softly in a slightly flattering tone, Hello, my name is Xiaoran, can I be your friend? He just glanced at her lightly and said, No, go away. If it were any other girl, she would not be able to sit down anyway after being treated like this by him. I didn't expect that the little girl opposite looked delicate and soft, but was unexpectedly persistent and stubborn, sitting there motionless. She just pursed her lips, her eyes were red, and she looked like she was about to cry. Then she said very seriously, Shen Chen, I like you. And Xiaoran held the plate and looked at Shen Chen, as if she had lost her soul, and walked forward step by step. The strange looks around her could not affect her at all. She wondered, did he still remember her? Maybe, he had long forgotten. But it didn't matter, she just wanted to tell him that she liked him. As for whether he would like her, she didn't care, and she didn't dare. It's fine if she likes him, no matter if there's no return, she just hopes he's safe and healthy, and being able to watch him from afar is all she wants. What should her first sentence be? Is it, Shen Chen, do you still remember me? Or, Shen Chen, I like you. Or, hello, can I sit here? Or, hello, my name isn't Xiaoran, can I be your friend? Yes, just say, hello, my name isn't Xiaoran, can I be your friend? Hello, my name isn't Xiaoran, can I be your friend? Hello, my name isn't Xiaoran. Chapter 8 Your girlfriend is gone. The girl kept repeating this to herself. The closer she got to Shen Chen, the more nervous she became. She couldn't think of anything, only that sentence kept echoing in her mind. She accidentally stepped on a puddle of water in front of her. R. She slipped, and with the plate in her hand, she lost her balance and fell forward. Although Shen Chen had been paying attention to her, it was too sudden, and she only saw the girl rushing over with the plate. The next second, she fell firmly into his arms. A strange silence fell around them. Lori and the others were dumbfounded. It's over, it's over. They seemed to have seen Shen Chen's furious look. Cai Bao didn't dare to breathe, for fear that Shen Chen would get angry and kick the girl who threw herself into his arms away, although he had never seen Shen Chen beat anyone seriously. And Xiaoran didn't expect this change. Her mind went blank, and she subconsciously looked up and met Shen Chen's narrow eyes. The pair of deer eyes suddenly opened wide, staring at him blankly, and the slightly chubby face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the blush quickly spread to the white and delicate ears and neck. What should I do? Oh, talk. Hello, my name isn't Xiaoran, can I be your girlfriend? She blurted out. Shen Chen. Other students? Fuck, this way of confession is a bit fierce. Are girls chasing boys now so innovative? No, it's hello, I'm your girlfriend. And Xiaoran shook her head in panic. No, your girlfriend fell off. Shen Chen. Everyone. Wow, the more she talked, the more confused she became. Why didn't her mouth listen to her? The little girl was about to cry in a hurry, so she simply stopped talking. She tried to prop herself up with her little fists, and climbed up from Shen Chen tremblingly after a long time. When she lowered her head, she found that there were several large pieces of oil stains on Shen Chen's school uniform, which hurt her eyes. When she fell, the plate also fell to the ground, and the food and soup inside splashed out, affecting Shen Chen. It was really terrible. Your clothes are dirty. She whispered, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Take off your clothes and I'll wash them for you. Shen Chen looked at her with deep eyes, but he didn't say anything or move. Everyone's heart was lifted. After a while, they saw Shen Chen retract his gaze. Forget it. He said coldly, picked up the chopsticks and continued to eat. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and was a little surprised. Today's school bully is particularly easy to talk to. Is he in a better mood? Or is it because this girl is too beautiful and he is kind to her? And Xiaoran wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. Student Shen Chen is generous and has forgiven you. Let's not disturb him from eating here. Your food has been spilled. I'll go get another one with you. Luo Li moved over and said something bravely, then pulled and Xiaoran away. When she ran to Chen Ling and Xu Hangli, Luo Li put her hand on her flat chest, feeling lucky to have escaped death. Oh my god, I was scared to death. I almost thought I was dead, but Shen Chen didn't make things difficult for us. What a pity, the braised pork we finally got is gone. Chen Ling and Xu Hangli, what's going on? How should I know? Luo Li also looked at Xiaoran strangely, are you stupid? I clearly told you not to mess with Shen Chen, why are you still? She is so beautiful, is her brain not working well? And Xiaoran lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes resting on her eyelids like crow feathers, and whispered, actually. I know him. We met in junior high school. The three girls suddenly realized. And Xiaoran bit her lip, I wanted to say hello to him just now, but I was nervous and said the wrong thing, and even stained his clothes. Lori blinked and suddenly asked, do you like him? And Xiaoran blushed instantly, how do you know? Lori proudly, nonsense, I have read hundreds of romance novels, and I have rich experience. Xu Hangli inserted a knife in time, it's just that I have zero experience in love. Lori. Chen Ling chuckled. And Xiaoran couldn't help laughing. As if you have rich experience. Luo Li rolled her eyes wildly and angrily pulled Xiaoran to get food. After getting the food again, they sat down. And Xiaoran quietly cast his eyes to Shen Chen's position again. There was no one there. He left. The little girl was disappointed beyond words. Seeing her actions, Luo Li shook her head and said, although we are not familiar with each other, I sincerely advise you not to get close to Shen Chen again. I heard that he smokes, fights, and does all kinds of evil things. He has many gangster friends. Hey, he is really not a good student. Chen Ling and Xu Hangli echoed, yes, we heard that too. And Xiaoran opened her eyes wide and argued seriously, it's not like that. You all misunderstood. Shen Chen is actually a very good person. The three girls didn't believe it at all. Instead, they felt that Xiaoran was too naive. They were also in the eyes of their lovers, so they naturally beautified and elevated Shen Chen's image in their hearts. And Xiaoran asked, did you see Shen Chen do those things with your own eyes? Well, that's not the case. Luo Li hesitated, but everyone said so. Is it wrong? Forget it, let's not talk about this. Xiaoran, I'll give you 2 pieces of my braised pork. And Xiaoran ate in small bites. The braised pork was sweet and fragrant, but she felt a little bitter in her heart. She could feel the kindness of Luo Li and the others towards her, so she was not angry that they misunderstood Shen Chen. But one day, she would let them know that Shen Chen was actually a very, very good person. On the other side, Shen Chen left the cafeteria. Cai Bao followed him and said excitedly, damn, that girl just now looked quite innocent, but I didn't expect her to be so proactive, throwing herself into your arms and saying she was your girlfriend, tsk. Girls nowadays really can't be judged by appearance. Cai Bao chattered non-stop, brother Chen, what a pretty girl, she took the initiative to confess, why were you so cold just now? If it were me, I would have nodded immediately. Shen Chen stopped and said something impatiently. Cai Bao, who was in a state of excitement, didn't hear clearly. Brother Chen, what did you say? Either shut up or get out. Shen Chen said expressionlessly. Cai Bao. What's wrong with Brother Chen again? Shen Chen turned around and continued to move forward. Didn't he want to agree? He wanted to agree more than anyone else, but he had his own considerations. In the short term, he couldn't get too close to Xiaoran. He had actually heard about all the rumors and opinions about him in school. Before, he didn't take these rumors to heart at all. The clear ones are clear and the turbid ones are turbid. It's good to be a man with a clear conscience. Even other students are afraid of him, and he thinks it's a bit cool, so he lets these rumors exist. But Chapter 9 It still depends on the face. A bad girl who fell in love with a bad boy? What if others think of her like this? Rumors can destroy bones, and public opinion can melt gold. Moreover, experimental high school is very strict about early love, and it is even written into the school rules. It's better to keep a low profile. The rest of the day passed quickly. Cai Bao originally thought that Shen Chen's study was a whim, and it would be the same after half a day, but he didn't expect that Shen Chen actually listened to the class and took notes seriously throughout the day. Is he serious about it? Not only him, but other people in the class also noticed it. The school bully started studying. Before the evening self-study, Cai Bao went to the toilet and came back. Outside the classroom door, he ran into several classmates gossiping crazily. Fuck, Shen Chen is studying? Is it true? I think it's just a temporary novelty. How many days do you think he can last? 3 days, at most 3 days. 3 days. I guess he will be the same again tomorrow. Want to make a bet? Okay, how do you bet? Someone next to him said sinisterly, whoever loses, who will eat shit, do you want to bet? When several students turned around and saw that it was Cai Bao, a trace of panic suddenly appeared on their faces. Cai Bao stared at them fiercely, you gossip about others behind their backs all day long. I think it's old man Fang Longping who has fed you too much. A student subconsciously corrected, that, you are talking about Yuan Longping, right? Cai Bao. Anyway, if I find out that you are gossiping behind my back again, I will tell Brother Chen and see how you die. He said viciously and walked into the classroom. The students looked at each other, not daring to say anything else, and dispersed. Cai Bao returned to his seat, sat down, and stretched out his hand to put on the shoulder of Shen Chen who was concentrating on reading. Shen Chen looked up at him, ? Cai Bao's face was deep, Brother Chen, I will always be your brainless fan. Shen Chen. Is he sick? The evening self-study class for tonight is mathematics class. Halfway through the class, the mathematics teacher received a phone call. I don't know what happened. He just left a sentence for everyone to study by themselves and hurriedly left the classroom. The classroom that was originally like a stagnant pool suddenly came alive. Luo Li took out a piece of bread from the drawer and asked Xiaoran, "Would you like to try it? I'll give you half. This brand is very delicious." And Xiaoran smiled and nodded, "Okay." Luo Li grinned, revealing two dimples. "Hey, I thought you were really a good kid." And Xiaoran stuck out her tongue. Then, the two girls each took half of the bread and started to eat. While eating the bread, Luo Li asked, "Did you take notes on the third to last question that teacher who talked about just now? He erased it before I had time to copy it on the blackboard." "I did." And Xiaoran handed her his notebook. "Take it and copy it. The notebook is very cute, with a pink hippo cover." As soon as Luo Li opened it, she was shocked. Not only was the handwriting beautiful, the paper was neat and clean, and the content was well organized, but also different colors of pens were used to carefully distinguish the knowledge points and easy to make mistakes, etc., which can be used as a note template. Looking at her crooked and scribbled notes that only she could understand, Luo Li suddenly felt very inferior. Oh my god, not only is her deskmate good looking, but her notes are also good looking. Comparison is really annoying. While copying in Xiaoran's notes, she asked curiously in a low voice, "By the way, you said you like Shen Chen, so can you tell me why you like him?" And Xiaoran was quiet for a while and answered in a low voice, "He helped me. Moreover, when she was most helpless, he was the only one who lent her a hand." "Luo Li, is that the reason?" And Xiaoran said, "Yeah." "Luo Li, really? I don't believe it." And Xiaoran, "Really?" Luo Li curled her lips, "Then answer me honestly, if Shen Chen looks ugly, will you still like him?" And Xiaoran, "How ugly?" Luo Li thought for a while and said viciously, "Old, ugly, bald, 150 centimeters tall, 150 kilograms in weight, with a greasy belly, and never washes his feet, let alone cuts his nose hair." And Xiaoran, "This is too cruel." Instantly, the little girl was entangled. She asked herself that she was not obsessed with face, but the image described by Luo Li was really beyond her tolerance. If Shen Chen really looked like that, would she still like him? The image that Luo Li said emerged in her mind, a bald, short and fat man with long nose hair, smelling bad, grinning at her, revealing a mouthful of big yellow teeth. The little girl shuddered subconsciously, feeling like the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Woohoo, this is too scary. She really can't like him. Lori covered her mouth and laughed, he, seeing you struggling for so long, I finally believe that you really like Shen Chen. If it were an ordinary person, it would have been impossible long ago. And Xiaoran frowned her beautiful eyebrows and sighed seriously, if that's the case, I will be deeply grateful to him, but maybe, I can't like him. Lori shook her head and teased, this is it, handsome people can't repay with their bodies, and those who are not handsome enough will repay a drop of water with a spring of water, it still depends on the face. Insightful. And Xiaoran was speechless. After a while, Luo Li finished copying the notes and returned the notebook to Xiaoran, saying, "But my mother always said that boys can't just look at their appearance, their character and ability are also important. I think Shen Chen is really." And Xiaoran immediately defended her sweetheart, "He is a very good person." Luo Li curled her lips and was about to continue talking when the math teacher pushed the door and walked in. "Okay, let's continue with the remaining questions." Both girls immediately shut up. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the bell for the end of evening self-study echoed in the night sky. Most students in experimental high school are day students, and Shen Chen is no exception. He carried his school bag and pushed his bicycle and left the school gate in the crowd. His home is more than 2 kilometers away from the school, which is a distance that is not far, but not close. Usually, he rides a bicycle to go to and from school. Pushing the bicycle outside the school gate, Shen Chen raised his long legs and directly stepped on the bicycle. At the same time, his eyes casually swept across the distance. There is a bus stop. At this time, the area around the station was full of people. To be more precise, they were all students like him who had just finished their evening self-study and were waiting to take the bus home. Under the dim light of the street lamp, Shen Chen suddenly saw a beautiful and lonely figure in the crowd of people waiting for the bus. Chapter 10. Do you remember? Shen Chen hesitated for a moment before leaving. He remembered that Xiaoran was staying at her uncle's house, more than 5 kilometers away from the school, and needed to take a bus. She had just transferred here today, and probably didn't have many friends yet. It was so late, would it be a problem for the little girl to go home alone? Shen Chen pursed his lips, suddenly got off the car again, and then directly handed his bicycle to Cai Bao, who happened to pass by. Cai Bao. I'll lend you the bicycle, and return it to me tomorrow. Leaving this sentence, Shen Chen strode towards the bus stop. Cai Bao stood there, looking confused, messy in the night wind. My home is less than 200 meters away from the school, do I need to ride a bicycle? Brother Chen, what are you doing again? When Shen Chen walked to the bus stop, he stopped and hid his body in the shadow of the sycamore tree on the roadside. Not long after, a bus came, and the students around rushed to squeeze in, and the originally slightly empty car suddenly became crowded. Shen Chen saw that and Xiaoran also got on the bus. Go inside, don't squeeze in the front, it's still very empty inside. The driver's full-blooded shouting kept floating out. Shen Chen waited for a while, and just before the door was about to close, he threw his school bag behind him, raised his long legs, and stepped on the bus. The students who saw him all changed their expressions slightly, and unconsciously took a half step back, making the space around him suddenly spacious, and the air circulation seemed to be much smoother. Shen Chen was tall, and he quickly found Xiaoran in the crowd after a glance. She was carrying a big school bag and stood obediently in the middle of the car. She was raising one hand to hold the ring above her head, and she didn't notice him. The door slowly closed, and the bus started. Shen Chen calculated the time, and it would take about 20 minutes to arrive. At this moment, the ticket seller squeezed over and shouted, buy tickets, those who have monthly tickets, take them out quickly, and those who don't have monthly tickets, prepare change. In Chu City at that time, bus card swiping was not popular, and tickets were basically sold manually, with ticket prices ranging from 1 yuan to 1.2 yuan. Students either used paper monthly tickets bought from the bus company, a stack of 100 pieces, and the price was 35 yuan. Each time they took the bus, they could tear off one piece and give it to the ticket seller, or they brought their own change to buy tickets. Shen Chen. Fuck, how could he forget this? Shen Chen held onto his luck and conducted a carpet search in his school uniform pockets and school bag. Finally, he reaped a lot of rewards. 1 50-cent coin, 2 10-cent coins. The ticket seller stared at Shen Chen and raised his voice at an inopportune time. Hey, you are the only one who hasn't bought a ticket yet. You look pretty good, but why are you so slow? You're even slower than a man in his 70s or 80s. Shen Chen. The atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. Everyone in the carriage looked over. When they saw that it was Shen Chen, many students' expressions changed, and they turned their heads or lowered their heads, pretending nothing happened. There were also a few students who were close to Shen Chen, and they were in a dilemma. It was obvious that Shen Chen didn't seem to have any money or a monthly ticket. If they helped Shen Chen, would they have any relationship with him? But if they chose to ignore him, would they be hated in the future? Not far away, the boy with glasses had a crazy change of expression. After a while, he finally prepared himself mentally and reached into his pocket silently, ready to take out the monthly ticket. After all, they are classmates. We will see each other sooner or later. Let's help the school bully this time. Auntie, I'll pay for him. At this time, a soft and sticky voice suddenly came from the crowd. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. And Xiaoran squeezed out of the crowd. She came in front of Shen Chen, her eyes sparkling, and then stretched out a hand to him. Her fingers were slender and white, and her white and moist palms were soft pink. In the middle of her palms, there was a silver coin. Student Shen Chen, take the money. When she said this, she stood in front of Shen Chen. I don't know if it was because she was excited to see Shen Chen or because it was too difficult to squeeze out. She was still panting lightly, her little face was faintly strawberry pink, and the smile on her face was as sweet as strawberry candy. Shen Chen's heart beat twice. After a long while, he reached out his hand, took the coin, handed it to the ticket seller, and then said in an extremely casual tone, "Thank you, I'll return it to you when I have the chance." When Xiaoran saw him take her coin, her eyes immediately became sparkling. It's great to be able to help him. Although it's just a small favor. No need to return it. She smiled happily, classmates should love and help each other. Shen Chen forced himself to control himself, moved his eyes away from her sweet smile, and pretended to look at the scenery outside the window. And Xiaoran pursed her lips, carefully moved 2 steps towards him, and got closer. As long as she raised her eyes slightly, she could see his beautiful side profile. Shen Chen didn't seem to notice. The little girl secretly curled the corners of her lips. I'm so happy to be so close to him. After a while, she mustered up her courage and whispered, Student Shen Chen, we met in the cafeteria at noon. I'm in Xiaoran from class 4, grade 1. Shen Chen didn't respond. And Xiaoran continued, actually, I knew you before. When I was in grade 1, I was bullied by several boys in my class. You were passing by. She repeated the scene of their first encounter and then looked at Shen Chen. Do you still remember? Shen Chen tilted his head slightly and saw her eyes full of expectation, shining brightly. No impression. He said lightly, also, I'm not used to people I don't know being too close to me. The little girl said, oh, aggrievedly, raised her foot, and prepared to move away a little. Just then, the bus that was moving suddenly braked without warning. Arr! She screamed, and suddenly lost her grip on the ring, and her body swayed and fell backwards. In a flash, a pair of slender arms suddenly stretched out quickly, wrapped around her back, and protected her tightly. That arm was naturally Shen Chen's. The driver leaned out of the car window and cursed angrily, You zebra, you went out without your glasses, right? Do you know how to drive? And Xiaoran was startled, and when she reacted, she found that Shen Chen's action almost held her in his arms, and her hands subconsciously grabbed the hem of his school uniform tightly and almost pulled open the zipper of his school uniform. Although there were 2 layers of school uniforms between them, she could clearly feel the warmth coming from Shen Chen's arms, as well as the strong muscles. Her face flushed all of a sudden, and she hurriedly let go of her hand, her little head almost lowered to the soles of her feet, and whispered, Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Chapter 11 Monthly Exam. Shen Chen also let go of his hand, and said lightly, It's for the sake of the dollar just now. Oh, I know. The little girl nodded with a red face. Remembering that Shen Chen said he didn't like people to be too close to him, she held the handrail again, took a step to the side, and kept a distance of about 1 meter from him before stopping. The boys in the car who saw this scene all beat their chests and stamped their feet in their hearts, regretting that they reacted too slowly and missed the opportunity to be a hero and save the beauty. They also secretly thought that the school bully was indifferent to such a cute girl, and didn't take the opportunity to hug her for a few more seconds, and asked the girl to stay away from him. This is not only unromantic, but also blind, and a waste of natural resources. God, why don't you give us such a good opportunity? Amid the complaints of many boys, the bus started again. And Xiaoran stood beside Shen Chen. She quietly looked at the night passing by the window, but the corners of her lips were quietly curled. I really hope this bus can drive slower, slower, and slower. About 20 minutes later, the bus stopped in front of a bus stop. The door opened, and the students rushed down. And Xiaoran glanced at Shen Chen and whispered, Student Shen Chen, I'm here, goodbye. Shen Chen looked out the window, seemingly not paying attention at all. After a few seconds, he said, faintly. And Xiaoran smiled and got off the bus. Through the window, Shen Chen saw that after she got off the bus, a middle-aged man and woman who were waiting at the station immediately came up to her. The man took the heavy school bag on her shoulder, and the woman asked something with concern, probably asking her if she had adapted to the first day of the transfer, how she felt, etc. They must be in Xiaoran's uncle and aunt. The little girl smiled sweetly, nodded obediently, and answered. The 3 of them walked away gradually. Shen Chen finally put his mind at ease. It seemed that her uncle and aunt were good to her, and they even came to the station to pick her up after evening self-study. On the way, and Xiaoran's Aunt Xuman saw and Xiaoran suddenly looking back and asked curiously, Xiaoran, what are you looking at? And Xiaoran smiled lightly, the moonlight tonight is so beautiful. When the car started again, Shen Chen looked at the remaining students with a pleasant face, which classmate can lend me another monthly ticket to go back? Students. What the hell are you doing here? Shen Chen's eyes finally fell on the academic bully. The nerd broke out in a cold sweat and trembled as he took out a monthly ticket. I have one here. Shen Chen took it and patted his shoulder. You are such a good friend. The nerd, I can't keep this shoulder anymore. It was almost 10 o'clock when Shen Chen got home, so he was naturally nagged by his mother Xu Hongxia. Fortunately, he had been in society for many years and could handle it easily. He slipped back to his room on the pretext of reviewing for the upcoming monthly exam. Xu Hongxia was skeptical and tiptoed through the door twice. She found that her son was really buried in reading and doing exercises. She was quite surprised and couldn't help but run to share with her husband, feeling that her son had really grown up and become sensible. Shen Chen went to bed after reviewing until after 12 o'clock. The next morning, he got up at 6 o'clock, but his parents were no longer at home. The noodle shop was very busy, and the couple got up early and went to bed late every day, which was quite hard. There was warm beef porridge and 2 boiled eggs in the rice cooker in the kitchen, which was reserved for Shen Chen's breakfast. After washing up, Shen Chen had breakfast and rode to school. Today is the monthly exam for the first year of high school. In the second year of high school, the subjects will be divided into arts and sciences. In addition, at this time, Chu City did not have comprehensive science and arts. Therefore, there were as many as 9 subjects in each monthly exam in the first year of high school, which lasted for 2 whole days. As soon as I arrived in the classroom, I saw Cai Bao talking to the glasses boy sitting in front of him with a smile on his face. Hey, Shuaba, let me discuss with you. During the exam, please put the test paper aside so that I can refer to it. The real name of Shuaba is Zhu Yuan. His grades are quite awesome. He is not only the first in the class of class 4, but also the first in the first year of high school. I heard that his junior high school entrance examination score was 7th in the city. According to his grades, he was more than qualified to go to the best provincial key high school in Chu City number 2 middle school. I don't know why he chose to study in experimental high school. Looking at Cai Bao, who made a plagiarism claim with a high-sounding and justified manner, Zhu Yuan shook his head seriously and said, This is not good. It is meaningless to cheat and deceive yourself. Cai Bao was stunned for a moment, then frowned and said angrily, Hey, I didn't ask you to pass me the answers, I just asked you to put the test paper aside. You won't help me with this little favor. Zhu Yuan swallowed his saliva, but still insisted, Cai Bao, you still have to rely on yourself for the exam. I can't help you with this. Fuck. Cai Bao really lost his temper, kicked Zhu Yuan's chair, and cursed, You are so pretentious, you are making excuses for trivial matters, believe it or not, I are. He was slapped on the back of his head, and the rest of his words were cut off in his throat. Cai Bao covered his head and turned around, and saw Shen Chen looking at him expressionlessly. She said embarrassedly, Brother Chen, good morning. Shen Chen raised his lips, You are quite impressive. Cai Bao's hair stood up, and he was terrified, I was joking with him. He is the teacher's darling, how dare I do anything to him? Shen Chen's smile faded, he looked at him coldly, sat down, and then put down his school bag and said, Take the exam seriously, if I find you cheating, I will kill you. Cai Bao was stunned. God, psychopath. It's not enough for you to study, but you also force me not to cheat. Isn't this too much? Shen Chen glanced at him and said lightly, You are scolding me in your heart, aren't you? Cai Bao. Fuck, are you the worm in my stomach? Par, that's not right, Brother Chen has superpowers and can hear my voice. Otherwise, how would he know that I was scolding him? Cai Bao was scared to death and shook his head frantically, No, absolutely not. My respect and love for you, Brother Chen, is like the endless torrent of the river, and like the yellow river bursting its banks, it is out of control, the heaven and earth can bear witness to it, the sun and the moon can testify. Brother Chen, don't worry, I will definitely take the exam well, get good grades, test style, test level, and never cheat. Shen Chen said lightly, Just remember it. Cai Bao is one of Shen Chen's friends. Although this guy is a little stupid and a little talkative, his character is pretty good. In his previous life, in the 3rd year of high school, Cai Bao fell in love with a girl in a certain class. The two agreed to take the same university. Cai Bao finally started to study hard, but he still failed to do so because of a few points difference. He and the girl had a long-distance relationship for 3 years, but they still couldn't resist the distance of more than 1,000 kilometers, and it came to an end. On the day of the breakup, Cai Bao asked Shen Chen to go out for a drink. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he squatted on the side of the road, crying and vomiting. He asked, If I had scored a few more points, would the outcome have been different? Whether the outcome would be the same or not, you should always try. Maybe it will be worse, or maybe it will be better. But for some things, you don't work hard because you see hope, but because you work hard, you see hope. Chapter 12 Even breathing is difficult. After the morning self-study ended, the exam bell rang, and the invigilator walked into the classroom with the test paper. The first subject that could not be shaken was Chinese. After reading the exam rules, the sealed test paper bag was opened, and then the students were asked to pass the test paper from front to back in rows. After receiving the test paper, Shen Chen calmed down, filled in the class name first, and then began to answer the questions. Although he had almost forgotten most of the knowledge after his rebirth, he could still barely muddle through Chinese. Firstly, he was good at Chinese when he was studying, and secondly, as his mother tongue, he had lived for more than 10 years and had a rich knowledge reserve. He could still know most of the common sense questions. In terms of reading, he could figure out the intention of the questioner and answer them properly. About an hour later, Shen Chen had done all the questions he could do before, and with the mentality of not letting go of the wrong answer, he filled in the few questions he didn't know, and never left any blanks. What if the teacher gives me some sympathy points for my hard work? Exams are like this. You can't give up easily if there is a little hope. The rest is just the essay waiting for favor. The essay topic of this exam is pressure. The horizontal part is for students to fill in by themselves. Except for poetry, the subject matter is not limited. Shen Chen pondered. A few minutes later, he picked up the pen and wrote in the middle of the first row, "Pressure makes us more powerful." In later generations, various inspirational articles and golden sentences are popular on the internet, and there are many articles about the theme of pressure. Shen Chen found a commentary published in their People's Daily in his memory as a template, and then slightly modified it, and a fresh essay came out of the oven. Although it is a bit suspected of selling chicken soup, it should be in line with the taste of most teachers at this time, and there are no obvious major problems. Shen Chen estimated that even if this essay does not get full marks out of 60 points, it is not a problem to get 50 points. What? You said this is plagiarism? Har har, can it be considered plagiarism for scholars? It's called reference. It's called tribute. As for Cai Bao, he started to collapse the second the test paper was handed to him. Damn, he doesn't know any of them. This question knows him, but he doesn't know the question. I tried to do some tricks secretly several times, but when I looked up, I met Shen Chen's cold eyes. Cai Bao. Forget it, there's not much difference between the last and the third from the last. Guess as many as you can get right. Multiple choice questions are easy. Write ABCD on the 4 sides of an eraser and let luck decide, or choose the shortest if there are 3 long and 1 short, choose the longest if there are 3 short and 1 long, and choose B if they are different in length. But what about fill in the blank questions? What comes after mountains dance with silver snakes, plains gallop with wax elephants? Use poetry to describe a happy mood. Could it be hoeing the field at noon? Poems that describe perfect love. Could it be the sun shines on the incense burner and produces purple smoke? The next line of if the sky has feelings, the sky will also grow old. If people have feelings, they will die early. Cai Bao doubted his life more and more as he did it. The only thing he was sure of was the composition. No matter how well he wrote it, at least he filled all the grids with great enthusiasm. The 2-hour exam seemed to him as long as 2 centuries. When the bell rang, Cai Bao felt as if he had heard the victory news that the motherland liberated Taiwan overnight, and he wanted to sing and dance. After the test papers were collected, the students around were busy checking their answers. Cai Bao also said to Shen Chen, "Brother Chen, let's check our answers." Shen Chen said nothing, but just glanced at him with contempt. How desperate would it be to check his answers? Cai Bao raised his chin and said proudly, "Brother Chen, don't look down on me. I feel that my composition is good this time. I can get at least 40 points. In addition, I can guess some points in the multiple choice questions and fill in the blank questions, so I can get 50 or 60 points. Shen Chen. The full score is 150. What is there to be proud of if you get 50 or 60 points? Hey, the composition is so difficult this time. Someone ran over and asked Zhu Yuan, "Shuabar, what topic did you choose for your composition?" Zhu Yuan said, "Oh, I wrote about pressure that makes us grow." The student, "I wrote about us under pressure, it seems a bit off topic. What pressure makes us grow, us under pressure?" Cai Bao looked up blankly. He thought of something in horror and looked at Shen Chen, "Brother Chen, where is your composition? How did you write it?" Shen Chen said lightly, "Pressure makes us more powerful." Cai Bao howled miserably, Am I the only one in the world who wrote an explanatory article about pressure cookers? Shen Chen almost laughed to death. There are 2 exams in the morning, the second one is physics. During the 10-minute break, Shen Chen took out his physics book and flipped through it quickly, trying to read a few more examples before the battle. He wanted to get one more point. Soon, the exam bell rang. The invigilator came in with the test paper and reminded the students to put away their textbooks with a serious face. Only then did Shen Chen put the physics book away. After getting the test paper, he filled in his name and class as before, and then quickly scanned the questions. Damn, it was harder than he thought. Although he had gone through the physics knowledge points of the first year of high school as quickly as possible, the time was too short after all, and he was still far from being able to use them flexibly. Shen Chen could only try to do what he could do first, and then solve them one by one according to his grasp, starting from small to large. It was very difficult to do a test paper, which was very strenuous, and it was incomparable to the Chinese language just now. Until the invigilator reminded him that there were 2 minutes left before the end of the test, the last few big questions were still blank. Forget it, I guess I can't do it. Shen Chen randomly filled in a few answers, hoping to get 1 or 2 correct and get some points, and handed in the paper when the bell rang. As soon as the physics test was over, it was time for lunch break, and students from all classes rushed out of the classroom. Luo Li first took and Xia ran to the toilet to take care of their physiological needs, and then went to the cafeteria. On their way, Luo Li was worried. The questions in this physics monthly exam are so difficult. I have no confidence in the last few big questions. What about you? And Xiaoran, I think it's okay. I got them all done. Luo Li, how did you do the last big question? When Xiaoran finished speaking, she was still confused. I don't understand. Forget it, let's eat first, and you can explain it to me in detail when we return to the classroom after dinner. When they arrived at the cafeteria, Luo Li was pulling Xiaoran to find a seat after getting the food, and Xiaoran suddenly stopped. Luo Li, ? Could it be? She subconsciously followed Xiaoran's line of sight and was immediately shocked. Shen Chen again. You don't want to go to him like you did yesterday. Xiaoran nodded. Luo Li was so scared that her face turned pale, and she covered her chest. No, I'm so scared that I can't even breathe when I see him. Chapter 13. I've watched too many movies and I'm sick. It's okay, I can go by myself. The little girl said gently but stubbornly. In fact, he's really not scary at all. Luo Li. She couldn't stop Xiaoran, and could only watch her deskmate walk step by step towards the big devil called Shen Chen. Woo, I will pray for you. Cai Bao was exhausted from the 2 exams in the morning and didn't come to the cafeteria to eat. Shen Chen sat alone. He saw Xiaoran walking towards him out of the corner of his eye. Then, she put the plate on the empty seat opposite him and smiled at him softly. Student Shen Chen, can I sit here? Shen Chen looked up at her and said lightly, I said, I don't like people I don't know to be too close to me. Xiaoran said aggrievedly, oh. She picked up the plate again and looked around, trying to find another seat. But it was the peak time for lunch, and there were people everywhere. It was hard to find a seat in the cafeteria, and almost every table was full. Shen Chen also noticed it. He was silent for a while, his tongue tip slid across the roots of his teeth, and his tone was slightly reluctant. Forget it, you sit down. Xiaoran's face suddenly bloomed with a sweet smile. She knew that although Shen Chen looked a little fierce and cold, he was very kind. Lori in the distance kept staring at Xiaoran. Seeing that her deskmate had successfully sat down opposite Shen Chen, she almost let the plate slip out of her hand. Is it true? Next to her, several students from class 4 also noticed it and asked gossipingly. Oh my god, what's going on? What's going on? Lori's eyes were dull. I don't know either. Maybe Shen Chen is in a particularly good mood today. After sitting down, Xiaoran didn't say much, but lowered her head and began to eat seriously. A small bite of food, a small bite of rice, not hurried or slow, no sound at all, only the cheeks bulged slightly with the chewing action, like a little hamster, looking obedient and cute. Shen Chen glanced at her for a few times, picked up the chopsticks, and continued to eat. In a good mood, with a good appetite, everything tasted delicious. The 2 of them just ate without extra communication, and the stealthy eyes around them finally retracted. However, during the meal, Shen Chen occasionally raised his head, and he would see the little girl opposite him notice the movement, and then raised her head and quickly gave him a sweet smile. Shen Chen had no expression on his face, but he was madly sighing in his heart. Damn, so good, so cute, I want to rub it. A few minutes later, Shen Chen finished his meal first, and without staying for long, he got up and left the cafeteria. There were tiny footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Xiaoran following him. She didn't say anything, just curved her eyes and smiled at him. Shen Chen quickened his pace, and she quickened it too. Shen Chen slowed down, and she slowed down too. Following him closely, like his little tail. Passing a corner of the playground where there were few people, Shen Chen suddenly stopped and turned around. And Xiaoran blinked and stood there motionless. Shen Chen put his hands in his trouser pockets, deliberately frowned, stared at her, and said in a cold tone, "Why do you always follow me?" Under her long eyelashes, the little girl's amber pupils turned around, and her voice was soft and soft, "Can't I follow you?" "Shen Chen, I don't like it." And Xiaoran was aggrieved, "Oh, sorry." After a few seconds of silence, she whispered, "I know you don't like others to get too close. Then can I stay away from you? Just treat me as if I don't exist." Shen Chen narrowed his eyes and stared at her indifferently. After a while, he said nothing, turned around casually, and continued to walk forward. After walking a few steps, he tilted his head and glanced at her with the corner of his eye. The little girl followed obediently behind him, keeping a distance of 5 or 6 meters from him. That's good. The afternoon exams were chemistry and English. For Shen Chen, the first chemistry exam felt similar to the physics exam, and he was basically not very sure. As for Cai Bao, he continued to guess. Putting copper ion solution into milk will cause protein denaturation and form precipitation. This phenomenon is called. Cai Bao stared at a question on the test paper and said to himself with uncertainty, could it be copper salt polylactation? Shen Chen. The second subject in the afternoon is English, which is Shen Chen's strongest subject now. He passed the English level for test at least, and he has been dealing with English a lot after graduation. His vocabulary is far beyond the current level of high school students, and his listening skills are even better. The only problem is grammar, but he still remembers 60% to 70%. An hour later, Shen Chen finished all the English test papers and began to check. On the other side, in the office of the high school Chinese group. At this time, high schools in Chu City still mark papers manually, and Chinese teachers are busy marking papers. The monthly test papers have been broken up, and the names and classes are sealed with seals before they are distributed to each teacher. This is done to prevent the marking teachers from recognizing the handwriting of students in their own classes and showing favoritism when marking. Zhang Jun, the Chinese teacher of class 3, sat at the table, quickly scratching the test paper with a red pen in his hand. One test paper after another was turned over. "Hey, this essay is not bad." His eyes suddenly lit up, and his movement stopped. He quickly scanned the lines of text in front of him. Pressure makes us more powerful. Nowadays, pressure seems to have become a fashionable word. Young people are all complaining about the pressure of life, the pressure of study, and the pressure of competition. They seem to be overwhelmed and ready to collapse at any time. But we may not realize that our parents and ancestors have also borne the burden of pressure like us. In their era, that rough and difficult era, how many people turned pressure into the power of struggle, from poor villages to higher education institutions, and became pioneers of various scientific research projects. How many people gave up their original comfortable lives, go to their hard frontier western region, bear unimaginable huge pressure, and dedicate themselves to the construction of the motherland. From poverty and weakness to the first manufacturing power, from 2 bombs and 1 satellite to the development of the Northwest, all are inseparable from their efforts. They make themselves more and more resilient in the thousands of times of pressure. On their backs, they carry the unyielding spirit, and with an indomitable fighting attitude, they firmly support the glory and dreams of the Chinese people, so that the motherland can hold its head high and stand tall on the top of the world. After writing 700 or 800 words in the middle, the last is the summary. There is never a smooth sailing in this world. Just as the road of life cannot always be full of flowers and warm like spring, because there is the arrival of winter, there will be the revival of spring, the blooming of summer, and the fruitfulness of autumn. Iron ore is forged into steel after thousands of hammers, and so are people. In fact, every generation will encounter various troubles, pressures, and difficulties, but escape has never been the mainstream choice of Chinese youth, nor should it be the attitude of contemporary youth. Don't give up your dreams because of heavy pressure, but let it be your strength to polish yourself into a better self and forge ahead all the way. I wish you to overcome all difficulties and wish you a bright future. Zhang Jun read it back and forth twice and nodded secretly. Measured by the standards of a high school student, this essay is almost flawless. Logically, it should get a high score. Even if it is given a full score, it is reasonable. But before giving the score, he stopped again. The handwriting on the test paper is really. The handwriting is flying, opening and closing, sharp, and ugly in a unique way. He can't remember any excellent students in his class whose handwriting is like this. So, is it another teacher's student? Zhang Jun was immediately jealous, and he deducted 2 points decisively. Humph, I'm afraid you'll be proud of the full score, so I'll give you 58 points just right. The monthly exam continues. Shen Chen's test results were mixed. Mathematics was okay, but he was not sure about the remaining subjects. On the afternoon of the next day, the last biology exam was finally over, announcing the end of the monthly exam. As for the overall ranking of the grade, it would not be announced until the next day. After 2 days of intensive exams, the school was merciful and exempted the evening self-study that day. When school was over, the classroom was full of voices calling friends to go somewhere to play. Cai Bao collapsed there, like a pile of mud. I'm so tired. I took 2 days of exams and I felt 2 days older. I must buy a few bottles of 6 walnuts later to nourish my brain. The top student looked puzzled. You haven't used your brain, why do you need to nourish your brain? Cai Bao. Sooner or later, I will kill this glasses boy. At this time, a boy in the classroom called out to play basketball. Cai Bao suddenly became energetic, sat up straight, stuffed textbooks into his school bag, and asked Shen Chen excitedly, Brother Chen, I also brought a basketball, do you want to play basketball? Influenced by slam dunk, one of the necessary skills for boys in this era to be cool is playing basketball. No. Shen Chen casually and freely threw his school bag over his shoulder, I'm going to the internet. Wait, I'll go to the internet cafe too. Cai Bao immediately changed his mind, I haven't played StarCraft for many days, my hands are itching. He put on his school bag and followed Shen Chen out of the school gate. After walking for more than a kilometer, the two came to the gate of an internet cafe. This internet cafe is Tianqing Internet Cafe, which Shen Chen often comes to. The name is very domineering, and there are almost hundreds of machines. It is considered a large scale in this era. At that time, internet cafes were not as common as they would be a few years later. There were only 1 or 2 within a few kilometers, so they were often crowded. When the two arrived, the internet cafe was already full. However, the young female cashier at the front desk looked at Shen Chen and was particularly enthusiastic. Qingzi, you are here. Well, are there any vacancies? The female cashier flipped through the book that recorded the customer's computer time and deposit, and then said, it's almost time, several computers will be available soon. You and your classmates wait for a while, I will call you when there are vacancies. By the way, do you want a Coke? Shen Chen shook his head. I'll treat you. The female cashier said with a smile. Cai Bao felt sad. Brother Chen's treatment. A regular customer nearby started to make a noise. Yeah, why don't you treat us? The cashier said, Par, if you're half as handsome as him, I'll treat you. No thanks. Shen Chen just smiled, I'm not thirsty. The cashier asked with a hint of meaning, what do you want? Shen Chen changed the subject easily, are Dalong and the others there? Yes, they are playing CS in Area A. Seeing that he was indifferent, the cashier replied with a little disappointment. Shen Chen said thank you, turned to Cai Bao and said, wait here, go first if there's a free machine, I'll go find some friends. Hearing this, Cai Bao's heart suddenly started pounding. Brother Chen's friends. He had heard all those stories about Shen Chen, about how he was on good terms with the gangsters, how he was so powerful outside, how he could cover the sky with one hand, and how he chopped all the way from the Yellow Crane Tower to Jianghan Road with a machete, and blood splattered 10 miles away without blinking an eyelid. Cai Bao thought excitedly, could it be that Brother Chen was looking for them? He was so excited that he trembled when he thought about having the opportunity to see the gangsters in person. If Shen Chen knew what he was thinking, he would definitely think that this kid had watched too many young and dangerous movies and was sick. Area A of the internet cafe was filled with smoke. The crisp sound of gunfire continued to come from the inferior speakers. At the same time, several voices were swearing at each other in a murderous manner. The momentum was like they had met the murderer of each other's father. Fuck, I missed again. Kaizi, you zebra, do you know how to play the gun flipping trick? Fuck, the gun flipping trick is very difficult. Do you know what I mean? Stop making noises, I'm chatting with a girl, can you two shut up? Get lost, you playboy. The remaining two people shared the same hatred and the same enemy. You've been picking up girls every day, but you've never succeeded, you're a loser. You might as well play CS. A smile appeared on the corners of Shen Chen's lips. It's been a long time since I saw these guys. Fang Zhilong, 19 years old, nicknamed Dalong. Ji Kai, 18 years old, nicknamed Kaizi. Luobo, 18 years old, nicknamed Luobwa. The parents of the three people, like Shen's father and mother, are employees of the steel plant and live in Xinjiang village. Therefore, they are buddies who have been playing with Shen Chen since they wore open crotch pants. Unlike Shen Chen, the three people are not good at studying. Dalong entered the society after finishing junior high school, while Ji Kai and Luobo spent their days in a nearby technical school. The three of them did not commit any major offenses, but it was common for them to cause trouble. They had been to the police station several times because of fighting. Fortunately, they had rich experience in fighting and had not caused any major trouble. At most, they were locked up for a few days, educated, and finally apologized and paid money, but they were inevitably notorious. For this reason, Shen Chen, who was hanging out with them, was naturally classified as one of their kind in the eyes of others. From a secular standard, the three of them were indeed not good young people who were 5 good, 4 beautiful, and 3 loving. But they really regarded Shen Chen as a friend. In the previous life, Shen Chen's family had an accident, and Shen's father was lying in the ICU and urgently needed money, but his life savings were borrowed by Shen Huoxing and not returned. Xu Hongxie ran around to seek help, and even mortgaged her house to the bank, but she still couldn't hold on for long. A few days later, the three of them suddenly found Shen Chen, and without saying a word, they directly stuffed a thick envelope into his hand. There were all red bills inside, at least 30,000 yuan. Shen Chen asked them in surprise where the money came from, and they just said lightly, "Fuck, this little money is nothing, hurry up and pay the surgery fee, if it's not enough, I have more here." Later he learned that Dalong originally planned to run a taxi with others, and most of the money was the down payment for buying a taxi license. The other several thousand yuan was borrowed by Ji Kai and Luobo from their classmates and teachers in a humble manner. Chapter 14. Don't get too close to me, I'll ask you to open the case. Shen Chen walked up to Dalong and patted him on the shoulder. "Fuck, who, didn't you see me playing CS?" Dalong turned his head with yellow hair angrily. When he saw Shen Chen, the ferocious murderous look on his face instantly dissipated. "Qingzi, my day. Go away and kill yourself," Shen Chen said bluntly. Ji Kai next to him said in his busy schedule, "Isn't that the Japanese 22 people?" Dalong was furious, dropped the mouse, rushed over and pinched him. "You are the damn one from Japan 22, and your whole family is from Japan 22. We no longer play 2-player CS, but instead play real-person PK." 17 or 8 QQ chat windows were opened over there, and Luobo, who was still chatting with many sisters in an orderly manner, saw Shen Chen, and his eyes lit up. "Qingzi, come here quickly." Shen Chen walked up to Luobo and looked at him with some confusion. "Rob, I need to borrow something from you." Shen Chen, "What?" "Rob, lend me your photo." Shen Chen, "Why do you want my photo?" Luobo cleared his throat, and a lewd smile appeared on his face covered with acne. "I have a female netizen who has been asking me for photos. As you know, although my handsomeness is only a little bit worse than yours, but not so photogenic, you are so handsome, Qingzi, do me a favor and lend me one of your photos, I will scan it and send it to her." Shen Chen kicked him over. Luobo screamed in pain, "Oh, you fucking dare to hit me. What are you afraid of?" Dalong and Ji Kai stopped fighting and turned their guns towards Luobo. "A loser like you who needs a substitute to pick up girls should be killed by everyone." After so much talk, none of them succeeded. What a shame for a man. Robo slammed the table in anger and complained bitterly. "Who is to blame for my failure? Every time I start chatting with a little hope, you say that this kind of online relationship is unrealistic. There are many transvestites, scammers, and dinosaurs, and ask you to screen for me to save me from being hurt in the future. But every time you scream, you lose my sister. If it weren't for you guys, I would have lost my virginity a long time ago. Fuck, you idiot. What's so great about a sister who was screened by us? Why are you fussing about such a small thing? Ji Yukai was very angry. Oh, Radish, women are like clothes, and brothers are like limbs. How can you bear to hurt your limbs for a few clothes that you don't know whether they are new or old, good or bad, fragrant or smelly? Dalong had a look on his face that said you are not loyal. Luobo shouted angrily, bullshit. If anyone touches my clothes again, I will chop off his hands and feet. You idiot, chop it up and see. The three began to curse at each other and greeted each other's family and ancestors affectionately. Cai Bao, who had just arrived, was stunned. Are these the legendary social bosses? That's not right. This style of painting is wrong. What about the bald head? What about the tattoos? What about the fat face? What about the thumb-thick gold chain around the neck? Of course, the one with yellow hair at the head has a ferocious face and a wretched temperament, a bit like a natural-born perverted murderer. The one with a thin body but well-defined muscles is a bit handsome, but he also has a murderous intention, just like a cold-blooded killer in the movie. The other one with acne on his face was indescribably vulgar. He really didn't look like a good person in the normal sense. But, shouldn't they be the same as in the movie, cold and domineering, ruthless and not very talkative, but especially brotherly and loyal, willing to go through fire and water for their brothers, and go to both sides? Why is it now like meeting the enemy who killed your father? You call me a fool, I call you a loser, and we get into a fight just because we don't agree with each other. Shen Chen is quite used to it. A few years ago, Luobo lent Ji Yukai's PS game console to a girl to play with, but it was broken. Ji Yukai was so angry that he had a fierce fight with him. No matter how much outsiders try to persuade me, they can't stop it. The fight was so brutal that it gave the impression that the two of them were desperately trying to kill each other with knives. The onlookers thought that the two would break off their friendship, but in the middle of the fight, Dalong called them to kill someone, and the two immediately stopped and cursed each other and went together. When we came back, we were already hooking up, as if they were brothers. With men, friendships are all about fighting. The two said in unison, if you don't fight, you can't make a friendship. The more you fight, the better. At this time, two computers happened to be free, and the female cashier called Shen Chen. Shen Chen said hello to Da Long and others, and then went over with Cai Bao. The two computers were adjacent to each other. Shen Chen picked one at random. After Cai Bao sat down next to him, he couldn't wait to click on the StarCraft icon on the desktop with the mouse. Shen Chen sat in front of the computer and opened the browser. In his previous life, he founded his own game company and developed several games that sold well. He was considered a successful person in the industry. However, Shen Chen would certainly not be satisfied with being limited to the achievements of his previous life. After being reborn, he has a vision that is 20 years ahead of his time, and naturally has ambitions that are beyond this time. God has given me the opportunity. If I don't climb to the top and overlook the mountains, wouldn't I be living up to God's will? But, how to do it? There is no need to think about the stock market. In Shen Chen's memory, the stock market will start to fall at the end of June, and it will be bearish until at least 2005, with a sinkhole. Buy lottery tickets and become rich overnight. This is a common method used in later generations' rebirth stories. Unfortunately, he can't remember any lottery numbers. Engage in real estate and convince your parents to use money to buy a house. The housing prices here in Chu City are rising slowly. If you want to buy, you have to go to places like Magic City, Capital City, Huarju, etc. But the housing prices in those places are too high to buy even half a house with your own savings. What's more, it's far from his goal. Too trivial. Study those rebirth novels and become a copywriter? Today's online literature is still in its infancy. It's basically just for self-entertainment. It's a long way from charging, and there's not even a hair on it. Speculation in virtual currency? Are you kidding me? Not to mention Harry, I don't even have a fertilized egg. In the end, Shen Chen focused on the internet industry he was most familiar with. Although the country across the ocean had just experienced the bursting of the internet bubble last year and the entire industry entered a cold winter that would last for several years, the internet trend had just begun to emerge in China in 2001. In the next dozen years or so, along with the country's strong development, the domestic internet will also show explosive growth like a snowball, until it is overwhelming and stirs up the world. Countless dreamers have come one after another. As long as they seize any opportunity, they can transform themselves into dragons and soar into the sky. In this internet wave, they have created new wealth myths and left behind attractive legends. But now, he is just a high school student of 16 or 17 years old. He has no financial support and no deep network of connections. The investment must have a quick return, a high rate of return, and low risk. There are really not many options that meet these conditions, but no matter which one you choose, you will need a certain amount of investment in the early stage. Not to mention too much, just a computer costs 5 to 6,000 yuan. But he can't even come up with $50. Borrow from Dalong? Ask your parents for it. As soon as these two thoughts came together, they were crushed by him. He has always been proud, even a little too proud. But it was this pride that made him in his previous life stand tall, unwilling to give in, and fight against his fate. He can handle this on his own. Definitely. We have to find a way to make some money as soon as possible. Shen Chen leaned back in his chair, tapped his knuckles on the table, and stroked his chin with his other hand, thinking, what should I do? Suddenly, an idea popped into my head, exploding like fire. Shen Chen sat up straight. Yes. At this moment, Cai Bao, who was playing StarCraft next to him, suddenly shouted, "Damn, why did the computer freeze?" Shen Chen retracted his thoughts and took a glance. The computer screen next to him turned out to be blank, and Cai Baojing looked depressed. Shen Chen said, "Restart your computer and take a look." Cai Bao asked, "How to restart the computer?" Shen Chen prompted, "Press the reset button on the chassis." Cai Bao did as he was told. After a beeping sound, the screen quickly changed to the classic Win98 desktop. But after a few seconds, the screen turned blue again. Cai Bao, Brother Chen can't do it. Shen Chen. Who can't do it? Say it again. Cai Bao hurriedly changed his words, "It's not Brother Chen who can't do it, it's the method of restarting that doesn't work. Call the network administrator." Someone next to him interrupted, "I don't know what's going on, but the computers here often crash during this period." The boss also said that it was a newly upgraded machine with good configuration and fast speed. It's all a lie. Network manager, network manager. Cai Bao shouted hurriedly. A carefree young man came over and asked, "What's going on?" Seeing the other party, Shen Chen was suddenly stunned. He vaguely remembered something. Cai Bao pointed to the blue screen and said, "This machine always crashes." The network administrator glanced at it and said casually, "Try restarting." Cai Bao, "I tried it." "Then change one." "Which one?" The network administrator looked around and said, "There are no available machines right now. Please wait a moment and we will switch when one becomes available." Upon hearing this, Cai Bao was unhappy and said loudly, "I waited for a long time before I got on the computer. I finally got the computer, but after playing for more than 10 minutes, it crashed. You still want me to wait? Isn't this a waste of my time? If you want to play, wait. If you don't want to wait, leave." The network administrator was also impatient, "There are no free machines now. There is nothing I can do." After saying that, he turned and left. Cai Bao instantly became angry and stood up suddenly. "What do you mean by if you want to play, then wait, and if you don't want to wait, then leave? You need to be more polite when you talk to me. Also, you didn't even check the reason for the crash. All you did was restart it or ask someone to replace the machine. You are the worst network administrator. What's the point of having a network administrator? I think even a pig can do it." The network administrator paused, turned around, and stared at Cai Bao. "You are looking for trouble, right?" Cai Bao shouted, "I'm not looking for trouble, I'm just discussing the matter at hand." "What's wrong? Are you not letting people talk because of your poor level?" The network administrator's face darkened. He looked at Cai Bao's school uniform and said in a threatening tone, "Little classmate, which class are you in at experimental high school? I'll invite you out to play when I have time." Cai Bao's expression changed. After all, he was just a student of 16 or 17 years old. Facing such a member of society, he naturally felt a little afraid. Suddenly, someone beside me said calmly, "He is in the same class as me." The network administrator looked subconsciously and saw Shen Chen next to him. Shen Chen leaned lazily on the back of the chair, with the corners of his lips curled up, looking at him with a half smile, he is my classmate. The network administrator's face changed for a while, and he smiled. It turns out he is Qingzi's classmate. You should have told me earlier. Shen Chen smiled. For some reason, this smile made the network administrator feel a little scary. There are many reasons why the computer crashes. You have to check it slowly. There are so many people online now and I don't have time. He kept smiling. How about this? The previous internet fee will be mine. I'll have time later. Machine, I will help your classmate get another one as soon as possible. After finishing speaking, he turned to Cai Bao and said pleasantly, classmate, what do you think? As the saying goes, don't hit someone with a smiling face. Cai Bao's anger has subsided a little. Couldn't he have just said this earlier? Then. It's okay, I know computers too, let me take a look. Shen Chen said calmly. The network administrator was stunned for a moment. What are you looking at? Shen Chen glanced at him and smiled. Let's see the reason for the crash. The network administrator was stunned again and said with a smile, Qingzi, do you know anything about computers? Stop joking. Cai Bao also looked at Shen Chen in shock. Brother Chen knows about computers. Why hasn't he heard of it? I'm not kidding. Shen Chen said calmly, there are only two possibilities for the crash, either a software problem or a hardware failure. I judge that there is a problem with the hardware. Open the case and let me take a look. The network administrator's face showed a flash of panic, but it immediately returned to normal. Computers are still a rarity these days. A kid of 16 or 17 doesn't know much about computer software and hardware. TSK, I don't know where I learned a few new words, and I'm deliberately showing off. Laughing to death. At this time, someone shouted, Network Administrator. The computer is down. Come and take a look. The network administrator smiled and said, Qingzi, don't embarrass me. I'm busy now. I'll treat you to a Coke later. He turned to leave. Bang! Shen Chen stretched out a long leg across the middle of the aisle, blocking his way. The network administrator turned to look at Shen Chen, the smile on his face stiffened. Qingzi, what are you doing? Shen Chen didn't speak, but looked at him coldly. After a few seconds, he raised his chin at him. Open the case, I want to take a look. It is human nature to watch the excitement. At this time, many people in the internet cafe stopped what they were doing and looked over. Cai Bao was also stunned. What is Brother Chen doing? Why do you have to ask the other party to open the case and take a look? The network administrator's eyes flickered for a few times, and after a long while, he took out an Ashima cigarette, handed it over with a smile, and whispered, Qingzi, give me some face, I still have to do something, okay? Shen Chen didn't answer, don't get too close to me. I asked you to open the case. The network administrator's face was uncertain. After a while, he suppressed his anger and said, you really think I'm afraid of you? Before he finished speaking, someone hit him on the shoulder, which hurt like hell. He turned around suddenly, and when he saw the three young people behind him, the next words were stuck in his throat. Chapter 15. You are so brave. Dalong held a cigarette in his mouth and looked at Shen Chen. What's going on? Shen Chen, let him open the case and take a look. Qingzi, why do you want to look at the chassis? Ji Kai asked curiously. It's none of your business. Shen Chen said concisely. It was hard to explain, so he simply didn't bother to explain. Fuck, that little bastard is so cool. Ji Kai cursed, and then said coldly to the network administrator, are you deaf? My brother asked you to open the computer case. Sometimes, brothers are like this, even if you have no reason, he takes it for granted. As he spoke, more and more people looked over him, and these people became the central focus of the internet cafe. The network administrator gritted his teeth and continued to resist, you have no right to ask me to do this. Besides, a computer costs several $1,000s. What if it breaks accidentally? Shen Chen said calmly, I will compensate. The network administrator's face turned even darker. Damn it, it's not over yet. You, don't go too far. Open it if you are told, don't talk nonsense. Dalong became impatient and spit a puff of smoke in the other person's face. Even if it's really broken, why don't we think we can't afford to pay for a few thousand yuan? Luobo and Ji Kai also sneered. Although I don't know what Shen Chen wants to do, he is definitely on his brother's side. Shen Chen leaned there, still curling his lips, and raised a finger casually, with a sinister tone. Last warning, if you don't open it again, you will bear the consequences. The network administrator stood there, as if he had turned into a fossil, motionless. Dalong, Shinzi, what's going on? Suddenly, a voice asked. The network administrator looked up and saw a man walking over, and his face suddenly became even more ugly. The man is about 40 years old, wearing a short-sleeved silver-gray shirt and dark gray trousers. He wears a pair of glasses. He looks quite elegant, but under the lenses, there will occasionally be a sharp flash of light. He smiled kindly and greeted a few people familiarly. What happened? Why did Xiao Hu get into a quarrel with you? Boss he. Dalong tilted his head and said he didn't know. Asked Qingzi. Shen Chen looked at the middle-aged man. This person is the owner of Tianqing Internet Cafe, his surname is He. As for his specific name, Shen Chen doesn't know. In my impression, this person is always kind and cheerful, smiling, making people feel like spring breeze. However, Shen Chen knew that the other party was not that simple. You know, in this era, an internet cafe with over 100 computers would require an investment of at least 5 to 600,000. In addition to money, you also need to have a roof over your head and enough food to eat. Those who can do it are not ordinary people. Bossy looked at Shen Chen, still smiling, with a hint of inquiry in his tone. Orange. Shen Chen said lightly, it's not a big deal. I just want him to take apart the chassis of this machine and take a look inside. Bossy was stunned. Is that all? Can you give me a reason? Just now, my classmate's computer crashed several times. Shen Chen pointed at Cai Bao, who had not yet recovered. It just so happens that I also know a little bit about computers, so I wanted to dismantle the case and check to see if it was a hardware problem. But the network administrator refused to do anything. He suddenly asked, by the way, I heard that all your internet cafes have newly upgraded machines. Bossy nodded. It was just upgraded more than 2 months ago, and the configuration is the latest and best. But why do I hear people say that my computer often crashes recently? Bossy sighed. In the past few days, many customers have indeed reported that their computers crash easily. I don't know the specific reasons yet. Speaking of this, he was thoughtful. He looked at Shen Chen and then at the network administrator. The network administrator's face turned a little pale. He subconsciously took half a step back, but the aisle was blocked by Dalong and the others, and he couldn't walk at all. Shen Chen, boss he, do you agree with me to open it and take a look? Boss he thought for a while. Okay, let's open it and check what's going on. Seeing him nodding, the network administrator's legs felt weak. The chassis was quickly opened, and the various hardware inside were revealed to everyone. Luobo sighed. It turns out that a computer is like this. It's quite complicated. There are so many wires, like holes in the wire. It makes my scalp numb. Hey, there is an electric fan in it. Why isn't it equipped with an air conditioner? Woolen cloth. Gu Kai laughed. You idiot, the air conditioner is so big, can you fit it in? Luobo was furious. I don't know if it can be stuffed in, but I can stuff it in your PY. Seeing that the two of them were about to start squirting at each other again, Dalong gave each of them a slap on the back of the head and cursed. You are so noisy, please be quiet. The two of them shut up. When the case was opened, Bossy was stunned. After more than 10 seconds, he suddenly turned around, the smile on his face was gone, and he just stared at the network administrator, his eyes almost bursting with fire. The network administrator, Xiao Hu, was trembling, too frightened to speak. Snap. Bossy suddenly reached out his hand and gave the network administrator a loud slap in the face. You're so fucking brave. This time, everyone was stunned. Only Shen Chen remained calm as ever. In the previous life, that is, in July and August of this year, because old customers who surfed the internet repeatedly complained about the machine being stuck and prone to freezing, Bossy finally felt something was wrong and called in professionals to repair the computer. Then I discovered that all the graphics cards, memory sticks, motherboards, and other slightly valuable accessories in the computer had all been replaced with low-end second-hand goods. Obviously, someone had done something wrong. Bossy called the police immediately. It was soon discovered that the embezzlement was committed by Xiao Hu, a network administrator who had just resigned. Half a month later, Xiao Hu was caught. It turned out that he had been eyeing the machines in the internet cafe and wanted to steal the parts inside to sell for money. But he was not stupid. In order to delay the exposure, he thought of replacing the prints with a cat. He bought some low-end parts from the second-hand market many times, replaced the ones in the computer, and then resold them. Because it was discovered too late, the stolen money had been squandered so much that it could not be recovered. Boss, he lost hundreds of thousands of yuan. This incident caused quite a fuss at the time and even made local legal news in Chu City. Later, Shen Chen also heard that Xiao Hu had a conflict with someone in the detention center and had both of his legs broken. After Boss He slapped Xiao Hu, he asked all customers to get off the plane first. As compensation, the internet fee was free today. It didn't take long for everyone who had nothing to do with the matter to disappear. Then, Boss He asked others to check the damage. As their computer cases were opened one after another, his expression became increasingly gloomy. Xiao Hu paralyzed there in fear, crying with snot and tears, and argued that the matter had nothing to do with him and that he didn't know what was going on. Boss He went over and slapped Xiao Hu twice and kicked him hard. Xiao Hu cried even harder. After a while, Boss He walked up to Shen Chen and the others with a stack of thick red notes, and said with a smile, "Thanks to you, Qingzi, otherwise that bitch wouldn't know how much harm he would have done to me. This is just a small thing, it is considered thank you." Shen Chen took it casually, threw it to Dalong without counting, and said with a smile, "Thank you, Boss He, let's go first." Boss He was slightly surprised by the young man's carefreeness and calmness, thinking that he seemed to have seen big events before. Chapter 16. The incense in my family cannot be cut off. Little did he know that this little money was really not taken seriously by Shen Chen. The game company founded by Shen Chen had assets of over 100 million and monthly sales exceeding 10 million. Boss He looked at Shen Chen with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. "Well, come and play again when you have time." "Okay." Shen Chen smiled. After coming out of Tianqing Internet Cafe, Dalong, who had always maintained an extremely cold expression, jumped up, counted the stack of red bills in his hand several times, and then shouted, "Fuck, fuck, 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 3,000 yuan. So generous. Orange, you are rich." Luobo and Ji Yukai were also stunned. 3,000 yuan. In 2001, the per capita salary in Chu City was only about 500, which is indeed not a small amount. Shen Chen said calmly, "I helped him recover at least tens of thousands of dollars in losses, and $3,000 is not much." While Dalong handed the money to Shen Chen, he also educated Ji Yukai and Luobo. "You see, Qingzi is different if he can read. He can earn thousands of dollars casually, unlike you two who are illiterate and have basically the same brain capacity. Reduced to the level of a monkey." Ji Yukai was speechless. "Luo Biao and I at least went to technical school. How dare you, a fucking junior high school student, say that?" Robbo nodded in agreement. Dalong said, "Har har har, besides not knowing how to read, I have many advantages." Everyone, ? Da Long shook his yellow bangs in ecstasy. "For example, he is kind-hearted, he is handsome, he has leadership qualities, he is talented." Everyone. Luobo, "I won't talk about the previous points, but do you have mouse talent?" Dalong Aaron, "I know how to write love letters. I have a younger sister who was so moved by my love letters that she was willing to die for me." Everyone was shocked. They all looked at Dalong with admiration. They didn't even know that Dalong had this ability. Cai Bao, in particular, was in awe. "It's true that people cannot be judged by their appearance." Luobo asked, "How did you write it?" Dalong took a puff of cigarette and said deeply, "She read my love letter and cried, saying that if I pursue her again, she will die with me. Alas, I didn't expect that she would actually love me so much. It's such a sin. It's so profound." Everyone. Shameless. Because of the 3,000 yuan, Dalong and the others asked Shen Chen to treat him again. Shen Chen naturally agreed readily, so the five of them found a barbecue stall nearby and ordered a bunch of skewers and a box of beer. While waiting for the skewers, Shen Chen also introduced Cai Bao to Dalong and the others. Dalong and the others made a fuss and made Cai Bao drink, saying that the quality of wine is like a person's character, and they wanted to inspect him, and if he passed the inspection, he would be accepted as his younger brother. Cai Bao was so flattered that he picked up the beer bottle for a while. Shen Chen was speechless, kicked Da Long, and said with a straight face, "Stop teasing others, and you still accept your younger brother. You think you are really young and dangerous." Dalong laughed loudly. Yes, students, study hard and make progress every day. He suddenly sighed, "Oh, I am so handsome, why didn't those directors come to me to play the role of young and dangerous? I really have no vision." Ji Kai and Luo Bo booed him together. "The real character is playing, right? I'm afraid you'll go to jail before the filming is finished." Dalong could only sigh, "If you make friends carelessly, you make friends carelessly." Dalong and the other three quickly finished a box of beer. Ji Kai had the best drinking capacity and drank most of the box by himself. Shen Chen was afraid that his mother would scold him when he came home smelling of alcohol, so he only ordered a bottle of drink. Cai Bao could only drink with Shen Chen aggrievedly. After having enough wine and food, it was getting dark. Cai Bao was worried about being scolded by his parents, so he went home first, leaving only 4 brothers. Dalong squatted on the side of the road, took out a lighter, lit a cigarette happily, took a long puff, and then let the smell of smoke drift in the night wind. Shen Chen, who was squatting next to him, frowned and said seriously, "Dalong, please quit smoking." Dalong is the most addicted smoker among the group of people. Except for sleeping and eating, he almost never leaves his mouth. Later, he was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. Dalong flicked the ashes of his cigarette in an elegant manner. "No, I can't go a day without smoking." Shen Chen said sincerely, "Smoking is harmful to health." "That's not possible either." "Why?" Dalong said seriously, "My grandfather smoked, and my father also smoked. When I come here, the incense in my family cannot be cut off." Shen Chen. At this time, Ji Kai also came over, holding half a bottle of beer in his hand, but he didn't see Luo Bo. Shen Chen asked, "Where's the carrot?" Ji Kai pursed his lips and said, "He's squatting in the flower bed." Dalong was puzzled. He went to the flower bed to do something. He said he was a radish and should be planted in the flower bed. Ji Kai sneered, "He has a terrible alcohol tolerance, shame on me." Across the street, a middle-aged man in his 50s was on the phone. Ran, the emergency room is very busy today, and my uncle and aunt got off work late. Are you okay at home alone?" "Oh, you finished your homework? That's great. By the way, your aunt went to the supermarket to buy groceries. Don't you like sweets? Your uncle also bought you a piece of chocolate cake. We'll be back soon. Please wait patiently." After hanging up the phone, Chen Jianchen, the emergency room doctor of the Chu City Third People's Hospital, glanced at Dalong opposite and frowned. TSK, those 3 gangsters over there are regular visitors to his emergency room. Every once in a while he reported that he was covered in injuries. Didn't expect to meet again here. Shen Chen, Ji Kai, and Dalong were squatting outside the barbecue restaurant doing nothing. One was drinking, one was smoking, and the other was watching the traffic on the road. Another one was drunk and crazy in the flower bed. The night wind blew gently, blowing Shen Chen's short black hair. Under the shadow of the street lamp, the young man exuded an unruly look. A young girl passed by and looked at Shen Chen a little unable to take her eyes away. Dalong held a cigarette in his mouth and blew a frivolous whistle. "Beauty, do you want to meet my brother?" The girl was startled, quickened her steps in panic, and walked away as if she was running away. Dalong laughed and almost sat on the ground. Shen Chen punched him. "You are so boring." Looking at this scene, Chen Jianchen frowned so hard that he could pinch a mosquito to death. Although he didn't recognize the young man wearing the uniform of experimental high school, but seeing that he was familiar with those gangsters, he probably wasn't a good student with good moral character. Alas, even a good school like experimental high school is bound to have a few bad apples. By the way, my niece Ran has just transferred to the experimental high school to study. She is beautiful and has such a soft and well-behaved personality. He had to tell Ran carefully that he must keep himself clean, keep a distance from these bad students in the school, and never have anything to do with them. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of my dead sister? Chapter 17, Things That Are So Unforgiving. The monthly exams are over, and the teacher's office is busy correcting test papers and registering scores. After the scores are tallied, a unified ranking of the entire grade will be conducted, and it will take a day or 2 for the final results to be released. However, the individual subject scores for most subjects have already been released. The next morning, during the first math class, the head teacher Wang Qiong walked in with a stack of test papers. After class monitor Zhu Yuan announced the class, he nodded, sat down in front of the podium, and then read out the names and scores one by one according to the scores. The person who was red came to the podium to receive the test paper. The first one is Zhu Yuan, the top student. He has a perfect score of 150 and is also the first in his grade in mathematics. As for Shen Chen, he scored 112 points and ranked 18th in the class. Not bad, even Wang Qiang gave him an appreciative glance. This was also what Shen Chen expected. As a programmer, he was good at mathematics in his previous life. In addition, the knowledge points in the first year of high school were relatively simple, so even if he didn't have time to review, he still got such a skill that was neither too good nor too bad. Result. After reading for a long time, Wang Qiang's face suddenly darkened. Cai Bao. Cai Bao suddenly shrank his neck, then showed a righteous expression on his face, and slowly walked forward as if he were going to the execution ground. 0 points. Even though Wang Qiang always had a good temper, he was a little helpless and angry at this time. How did you pass the exam? Didn't you still have 30 or 40 points before? Why have you regressed so much? Also, even if you are blind, you won't get 0 points, right? Cai Bao looked aggrieved and said, Teacher Wang, you can't blame me. Question mark. It's all Brother Chen's fault. No, Shen Chen, he won't let me cheat. The class laughed. Wang Qiang was so angry that he slapped the podium. How dare you say that? Returning to his seat and looking at the test paper in his hand, Cai Bao looked up to the sky and cried bitterly, God! Why did you do this to me? What did I do wrong? The top student interrupted, You got all the questions wrong. Cai Bao glared at him fiercely, You are very humorous. The top student is a bit timid. Cai Bao's fists slowly clenched, fighting spirit flashing in his eyes. HMPH, stop looking down on others. I will work hard from now on to show you what it means to be in the east of the river for 30 years and to the west of the river in the next 30 years. Don't bully young people into poverty. Shen Chen was in awe. Oh, he was inexplicably excited. Then, Wang Qiang started to talk about the test paper. Cai Bao rarely listened attentively. After 5 minutes, give up. Dammit, the Book of Heaven. Can't understand a word. Forget it, might as well read comics. He took out a copy of Slam Dunk from the drawer and read it furtively. Shen Chen saw this and was speechless. He should have thought that this kid would be hot for 3 minutes. After class, the top student saw Cai Bao flipping through comics and asked in confusion, Don't you have to study hard? A self-destructive student, it's too tiring to work hard. You get 0 points or something, you get used to it after taking the test. Straight a student. In the third Chinese class, Chinese teacher Zhang Jun also brought monthly examination papers. After sitting down, he cleared his throat and began to read the fractions. The first place was still the top student, with a score of 143 on the 150-point test paper. Everyone marveled at how inhuman he was. After reading a dozen names, Zhang Jun picked up a test paper and was suddenly stunned for a few seconds. The students were confused, and then Zhang Jun finally cast a complicated look at Shen Chen. After a few seconds, he slowly said, Shen Chen, 109 points, 17th place. When Shen Chen stood up to get the test paper, Zhang Jun cleared his throat. Here, I would like to especially praise Shen Chen for his good composition this time. He paused and added, I corrected his test paper. Yes, I originally wanted to give him full marks for his composition, but I didn't recognize him as a classmate in our class, and the handwriting was too ugly, so I deducted 2 points for him. Shen Chen, please practice your handwriting when you have time. Shen Chen. Is it okay to deduct 2 points for ugly words? So, my full score essay is just gone. Brother Chen, it's too bad. Because of his ugly handwriting, he just missed out on a perfect score. Cai Bao was laughing like crazy underneath, but he didn't know that Zhang Jun was staring at him. Cai Bao, why are you laughing? The whole class wrote an explanatory essay about pressure cooker for your essay, and you got the lowest score. You still have the nerve to laugh. Do you want to know what score you got? Cai Bao. No, I don't want to know. The morning passed quickly and it was lunchtime again. In the cafeteria. After Shen Chen finished his meal, not long after he sat down, he saw Xiaoran holding a dinner plate and looking around. Soon, she saw him, her eyes lit up, and a sweet smile appeared on the corner of her lips. The next moment, she walked towards Shen Chen, then carefully put down the dinner plate and sat down opposite. Shen Chen didn't chase her away either. Even when she sat over, he didn't even lift his eyelids and continued eating with an expressionless face. The two of them didn't talk to each other, just lowered their heads and ate in silence. The atmosphere was subtle yet surprisingly harmonious, as if nothing around them could disturb them. "Hey, why are you here again?" Not far away, Cai Bao, who was holding a tray, looked at Xiaoran in disbelief. "What's wrong with this girl? You know, this position is the throne that belongs exclusively to him," Cai Bao. "Because of her beauty, he has been patient for several days. Why is she still not stopping? That is too much." And Xiaoran was a little embarrassed and smiled at him. Can I sit here?" The voice is sweet and soft. Cai Bao said spinelessly, sit wherever you want." He smiled stupidly and walked to the seat next to Shen Chen. Unexpectedly, Shen Chen glanced at him and suddenly pointed to the table next to him. "Sit over there." "Cai Bao? Why?" "Shen Chen, it's too crowded." Cai Bao. He went to the top student's table in a grieved manner, gritted his teeth and said, "Dammit, you are such a shameless person, I will never recognize him as my elder brother again." "Shuabar, okay, I will tell him." Cai Bao. "Dammit, you four-eyed boy are too insidious. I will retaliate against you." After eating, Shen Chen returned to the classroom. After a while, he took a basketball to the playground, intending to play basketball for a while to relieve his hunger. It was mid-May in Chu City, and the shadow of summer was already there. In addition, it was noon, and there were not many people in the huge playground. Shen Chen randomly picked an unoccupied basket and began to practice dribbling and shooting. Although he has always had the habit of exercising, he has not touched a basketball for many years since graduating from college. Therefore, the movements were a bit unfamiliar at first, but I quickly found the feeling. The young man dribbled the ball and ran on the field, like a vigorous male leopard. He jumped up again and threw the ball into the basket gracefully. On the other side, Xiaoran, Luo Li and the others were returning from the school canteen, each carrying a bag of snacks in their hands. When passing by the playground, they saw boys playing basketball, and the girls couldn't help but look away. Chapter 18. Please have a drink. Although they were a bit far away and couldn't see his appearance clearly, his slender figure, agile and explosive movements, and handsome and neat shots, were enough to make them stop. "Hey, look, who is this boy? He seems to be good at playing basketball." Laurie's eyes began to show hearts. "His back looks a bit like Rukawa Kid," said Chen Ling. "I wonder if he's handsome." Xu Hangli's face was full of curiosity. Suddenly, Xiaoran moved. She took out a bottle of Nutri-Express from her bag and handed the remaining snacks to Luo Li. "Please help me get it." "Laurie?" Before she asked, she saw Xiaoran holding the bottle of Nutri-Express and running towards the boy playing basketball. At the same time, Shen Chen, who was extremely immersed in playing, finally stopped. After playing ball for a long time, most of his short-sleeved school uniform was soaked with sweat, and it stuck tightly to his body, outlining his thin and powerful lines. He half bent over, with his hands on his knees, breathing quickly. The sweat on his forehead glistened in the sun. "A little tired, but very happy. It's been a long time since I've played basketball so heartily. Enjoyable." The sound of soft footsteps reached his ears from far to near, and Shen Chen raised his head and looked over. Then, he saw the little girl holding a bottle of Nutritional Express in her arms, bathing in the bright sunshine, running towards him. Shen Chen was stunned for a moment. Xiaoran walked a few steps away from him and stopped. She bent down, put the Nutritional Express in her hand on the ground, raised her eyebrows at him, and said softly, "This is delicious, I'll give it to you. If you're thirsty while playing ball, just drink it." After saying that, she looked at him eagerly with her wet deer eyes. Without saying a word, Shen Chen turned around and picked up the basketball again and started dribbling. Seeing that Shen Chen did not refuse, Xiaoran smiled happily, turned around, and walked briskly back to the stunned Luo Li and others. After walking a few steps, Luo Li finally twitched the corner of her mouth and said to Xiaoran, "How many times have I told you, why can't you remember it? Why are you looking for Shen Chen again?" Xiaoran blinked, "I'll bring him a drink." "Xu Hangli," I said, "have you mistaken your identity?" Xiaoran was confused, "What do you mean?" Xu Hangli said, "Usually it's boys who chase girls, and boys give girls gifts, but you're different. You confessed your love in public and gave her drinks. It seems like you're chasing him." Xiaoran said seriously, "Yes, I am chasing him. The girls. Chen Ling, you mean, you are pursuing him? Xu Hangli, do you like him so much? And Xiaoran nodded without hesitation. I really don't know what to say to you. Luo Li said angrily, you are so beautiful, why do you have to stick to him? Putting aside other things, you specially sent him a drink, but he still ignored you. How arrogant. And Xiaoran said softly, but he didn't refuse. Luo Li rolled her eyes in anger, you can't be promising. With your appearance, boys who like you can line up from the school gate to Hubu Lane, why are you just staring at Shen Chen? And Xiaoran said, because I only like him. Luo Li shook her arm vigorously, you should wake up. If he liked you, he would have promised you long ago. You are purely masochistic. And Xiaoran smiled, it doesn't matter, I just like him. Xu Hangli suddenly blinked, however, I can understand Xiaoran. Shen Chen looked so handsome when he played ball just now. I was a little moved. And Xiaoran was startled and opened her eyes wide, you like Shen Chen too? Seeing her nervous look, Xu Hangli couldn't help but laugh, okay, I just think he's handsome and I'm just saying it casually. I won't compete with you. Besides, I'm not as infatuated as you and dare to get involved with the school bully. Relation. And Xiaoran hurriedly defended, Shen Chen is not a school bully, he is a very good person. I know, in your heart he is the best in the world. Chen Ling said with a smile. And Xiaoran blushed and whispered, that's right. Luo Li held her forehead and sighed, it's over, you girl is hopeless and has gone crazy. If one day you are sold by Shen Chen and you help him count the money, I won't be surprised. And Xiaoran replied, no. Luo Li, what can't you do? Aren't you that stupid? And Xiaoran said seriously, Shen Chen will not sell me out, he is a good person. Luo Li. She was convinced. Really convinced. On the playground. After Shen Chen finished playing, he rested for a while, walked over and squatted next to the bottle of Nutrient Express. He stared at it, a smile unconsciously appearing on his lips. What the hell, why is it so hot? Brother Chen, let's go buy a drink. Cai Bao shouted in the distance. He ran over and caught a glimpse of Nutrition Express on the ground. He bent down to get it, oh, there is a drink here. Brother Chen, if you don't want to drink it, give me a few sips. I'm going to die of thirst. What answered him was the basketball thrown over by Shen Chen. Cai Bao was hit hard and the monster screamed, ouch. Why did you hit me? This is mine. If you want to drink it, buy it yourself. Shen Chen glared at him, took Nutrition Express in his hand, picked up the basketball and walked back. Brother Chen, you are so uninteresting. Cai Bao followed behind and muttered unhappily, it's just a bottle of drink. As for that, it's like a treasure. Shen Chen, shut up. That S baby. Cai Bao. On Friday, the rankings for the monthly exam finally came out. After class, many students ran to see the rankings. Heads were buzzing in front of the bulletin board, and there was endless chatter. Har har har, this time I got into the top 100 in my grade. Damn, I'm only 305, what about you? That's awesome. Zhu Yuan from class 3 is the first in the grade. Cai Bao was also inside. He squeezed forward and soon arrived at the front of the bulletin board. He consciously started looking for his name from the end. Sure enough, the words Cai Bao appeared in the last row. But the man didn't have any shame or guilt on his face. He just looked away as if nothing had happened and muttered, where's Brother Chen? Where's Brother Chen's name? The top student on the side was very confused, aren't you embarrassed? Cai Bao asked back, what is there to be embarrassed about? Academic master, last in the grade. Cai Bao said confidently, so what? Since there will always be someone who is last, why can't it be me? The top student was speechless. Even his IQ of 150 couldn't find a reason to refute it. After a while, he stammered and asked, but, aren't you afraid that your parents will be angry? Oh. Cai Bao didn't take it seriously, it doesn't matter, they have long been used to it. Chapter 19 Falling from the Sky Again 4,000 words. After a while, Cai Bao finally found Shen Chen's among the densely packed names. He shouted excitedly, Brother Chen, you are 606. There are nearly 1,200 people in the school, and this ranking is in the middle. Well, not bad. Shen Chen, who was not far away, raised his eyebrows calmly. Although he had attended high school in his previous life, he had already given back most of his knowledge to his teachers after entering society. Being able to pass the exam in such a hurry was already better than he expected. Then, Cai Bao was startled and shouted again, "Damn it, Brother Chen, look, the third grader is actually." Shen Chen looked at the front of the list. In the first column and in the third row, there are the words, and Xiaoran. Ranked third in the entire grade. There is only 1 point difference from the second in grade, and only 8 points difference from Zhu Yuan. Cai Bao was so surprised that she could hardly close her jaw, and Xiaoran, could it be that beauty from class 4? Damn, it turns out she is also a top student. Shen Chen suddenly felt quite proud. Yes, his little girl is beautiful, smart and well behaved, so wonderful. Cai Bao turned his head inadvertently and saw Shen Chen staring at Xiaoran's name, with a faint smile on his eyes and lips, and asked in confusion, "Brother Chen, why are you laughing? Is there anything happy?" Shen Chen immediately returned to his cold expression, "No, I didn't laugh." Cai Bao. I'm not blind. After the second class, Luo Li also pulled and Xiaoran to see the results. She found herself first, in her 420s. Hey, I did pretty well this time. Luo Li was very happy and asked, "What about Xiaoran? What's your rank?" "Third." And Xiaoran said, "Lori." She immediately looked to the front of the list, counted 3 names from the front to the back, and slowly opened her mouth. "Oh my god, Xiaoran, you actually ranked third in the grade." She looked at her deskmate in disbelief. "So you're a top student, you're so damn good at hiding your talents." She knew that Xiaoran had ranked first in the class in several exams, but she was still shocked by the fact that his total score was third in the grade. And Xiaoran blushed a little at her. "Please keep your voice down, it's not a big deal." Luo Li nodded her little head suddenly. "No wonder, in the past 2 days, when Teacher Cao looks at you, it's like Master Miajie looks at Ji Xiaofu, always smiling and very kind." Sure enough, teachers all prefer good students. And Xiaoran pursed her lips and smiled. At this time, the school bell rang, and Luo Li pulled and Xiaoran, "Let's go, it's time to go back." "Wait a moment, I'll take a look." And Xiaoran stared at the list intently, not moving. Luo Li was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized, "Are you looking for Shen Chen?" And Xiaoran nodded. "Look for me at the next recess. This class is Teacher Cao's class. If you are late, you will be punished by standing still. Wait a moment, it will be ready soon." And Xiaoran opened his big eyes and looked at the names one by one from front to back seriously. Luo Li stamped her feet. "Forget it, just look for it slowly. I'll go back to class first." She ran away quickly. 3 or 4 minutes later, and Xiaoran's eyes lit up and she finally found Shen Chen. 606. The little girl thought, this number is so auspicious. When she returned to the classroom, Cao Ying was explaining the questions of the monthly exam paper on the podium, and it was almost the 10th question. And Xiaoran stood at the door and softly shouted, "Report." Cao Ying looked at her, her usually serious face unexpectedly softened. "Why are you late?" And Xiaoran felt slightly guilty. I went to the toilet." "Come in." Cao Ying said in a gentle tone. "Hurry back to your seat and sit down." "Okay, let's move on to the next question." There was no evening self-study on Friday. After school in the afternoon, students left the school one after another. Seeing that it was still early and Shen's father and mother were not at home, Shen Chen rode his bicycle and went straight to Tianqing Internet Cafe. Tianqing Internet Cafe has resumed normal business. As soon as he entered, he heard Dalong and Ji Yukai scolding each other while playing games. "If you call me a fool, I will fuck your whole family." Having said that, although Dalong and Ji Yukai are both extremely good at swearing, their specializations are different. Although Ji Yukai doesn't talk much, he is characterized by his extremely venomous tongue, which often hits the point directly and is extremely lethal. The big dragon is full of momentum and has many tricks. One after another, "idiot" and "fuck me" are so loud that they resound throughout the internet cafe. Moreover, the vocabulary of greeting family members and ancestors is extremely rich, and the imagination is extremely wonderful. Just a few words can make people endlessly daydream. Sometimes Shen Chen laments that if Dalong can use his amazing vocabulary and imagination to write novels, he might be able to occupy a place in the literary world in the future. In the end, the scolding battles often ended in a mortal combat fight, or the dragon ran out of cigarettes and went to buy cigarettes. For example, at this time, Dalong reached for the cigarette box while cursing, and found it empty. He cursed and stopped sparring with Ji Yukai, got up and was about to go to the front desk to buy cigarettes. Seeing this, Shen Chen tried to persuade him with concern, "You fucking smoke so much all day long, aren't you afraid of your lungs rotting?" Dalong, "The lungs are rotten." Shen Chen simply and roughly searched for a few pictures in the browser. It's a lung disease caused by smoking, and each one is more scary than the next. After reading the pictures, Dalong gasped. "So serious?" "That's how serious it is." Dalong patted his chest, with a palpitating look on his face. "Nima, I'm scared to death, I have to smoke a cigarette quickly to calm down." "Beauty, give me a hard bag for Donghu." "Shen Chen. Gan, let us beat you to death." He went to the front desk and asked, "Are there any private rooms?" The price of internet access in the private room is twice that of the lobby, and there are usually not many people. "There's another one for the double." "I want both." Shen Chen handed over 50 yuan, "Here's the deposit." He couldn't be disturbed by what he had to do later, so he booked an entire double room. Entered the box and closed the door. Shen Chen randomly chose a computer and sat down, then turned on the computer. He first downloaded a scientific internet tool through the browser, and after running it, he entered an address into the browser. Soon, an all-English website appeared on the screen. Their website is called Hacker Hub. The background of the homepage is pure black, and a series of flashing green command symbols are scrolling from bottom to top, which is full of design. Hacker Hub is the most famous hacker website in foreign countries. It is home to almost the best programmers and hackers in the world. They have the most cutting-edge computer knowledge and hacker skills that are still extremely mysterious in people's eyes. Shen Chen didn't stay too long on the homepage. He glanced around and quickly found the task area of the website in the upper right corner of the homepage. Click. Immediately, the page switched, and a clean and refreshing list page appeared in front of Shen Chen. Here is the mission area of Hacker Hub. There are various hacking tasks with bounty rewards. There are even many foreign software companies that issue task incentives through their Hacker Hub website. If someone can find the loopholes in their software, they can also get a lot of money. Bonus. The amount of the bonus usually ranges from $500 to $5,000. For the average person, it is already a large number. However, there are exceptions. For example, a foreign security software company called Nordon has full confidence in its software. Since 2000, they have released a long-term top task in the Hacker Hub task area. Anyone who can find any critical vulnerability in their security software will be rewarded $100,000. However, for 3 whole years, no one succeeded in getting this bonus. It was not until the end of 2003 that a well-known network security expert accidentally discovered a critical zero-day vulnerability in this security software. After he submitted the vulnerability, Norton Company conducted an evaluation and kept its promise and paid the other party $100,000. After completing the repair, Norton disclosed the principle of the vulnerability to the public. At that time, Shen Chen was interested in hacking technology, and with the idea of learning, he studied it until he was very familiar with it. "I had no intention of meddling." Unexpectedly, there are green trees. Soon, Shen Chen found the task link released by the software company, clicked it with the left mouse button, and the next second, he jumped to the task details page. At this time, more than a year has passed since the release of the task, and no one has submitted vulnerability information. The reward amount of $100,000 is marked in large red font, which is particularly conspicuous. It felt like a lonely and charming young woman waving her hand delicately. "Come on, uncle, come on, come and conquer me." Shen Chen raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, "Just wait." Just as I was about to start, I thought of a few details. According to the trajectory of the previous life, the vulnerability was discovered more than a year later. During this period, the software must have gone through version changes. I wonder if there will be any impact. Shen Chen felt slightly nervous, hoping that the loophole had appeared. He first downloaded the security software from the other party's official website, and then downloaded several useful tools. After a careful test, Shen Chen's eyes were like morning stars, and he raised the corners of his mouth with determination. $100,000, here I come. Da. Accompanied by crisp and rhythmic tapping sounds, his slender fingers jumped quickly on the keyboard. Under your fingertips, countless lines of code flowed out. Halfway through their work, Shen Chen felt a little thirsty, stopped, stood up and walked out of the box, intending to go to the front desk to buy a bottle of drink. The next second, two figures suddenly appeared in the line of sight. His black eyes flashed and his steps paused. Why are they here? Knowing that there were no vacant machines at the moment and the fastest one would be unloaded in half an hour, Lori looked unhappy. It's so annoying, why are there so many people? And Xiaoran beside her gently pulled her sleeve and said, forget it, let's do it again next time. The Stone Age is really interesting. I wanted you to play with me, but I don't know when the next time will be. Luo Li was still a little unwilling. How about we wait? She shook in Xiaoran's arm. Just stay with me and wait. It's the weekend tomorrow anyway, and there's nothing to do, okay? And Xiaoran pursed her lips, feeling a little embarrassed, but too embarrassed to refuse her deskmate. Okay? Two girls were standing at the front desk, wearing high school uniforms, attracting a lot of attention. Especially in Xiaoran, the innocent and naive little girl, was so cute and well behaved that she was out of place in the smoky, noisy and chaotic internet cafe. While they were talking, two young men nearby had been looking at them for a long time, whispering to each other. When the front desk said there were no vacancies, one of the men with long hair and a greasy look immediately stood up and greeted them with a smile. Two little classmates, no machines. The two girls were stunned by the strange man's greeting and they were unable to react for a while. Are you talking to them? But they didn't know him. Seeing that they were silent, the man raised his voice. Hey, two pretty girls, I'm talking to you. Luo Li swallowed and asked carefully, are you calling us? The other man next to him also smiled and said, what else? Apart from you guys, where else can you find any other beauties in this internet cafe? The female cashier glared. Luo Li, what's the matter? The long-haired man from before rested his arm on the monitor and smiled. Nothing, don't you have a machine? Lori hesitated and nodded. The two men looked at each other and laughed. The other one said, how about this, we add each other as friends on QQ and I'll give you the machine. How about that? Both little girls understood something. Luo Li hurriedly shook her head. No, we can just wait a while. The long-haired man didn't force it, and turned his gaze to Xiaoran. What about you? I'll give you my computer, and you can add me as a friend. After a pause, he said, just add me as a friend, and we'll pay for both of your internet bills today. In fact, this little beauty is their main target, and the one just now is just a byproduct. And Xiaoran pursed her lips tightly, subconsciously stepped back, and refused cautiously but firmly, no need. Her nervousness made them laugh. So cute. Hey, we just want to be friends with you. We won't do anything to you. There's no need to be so nervous, right? And Xiaoran became even more nervous. I don't know you. Her voice was soft and thin, and to the two men it was like a feather gently scratching their eardrums, and the itching feeling went all the way to their hearts. Wouldn't it be better to get to know each other after adding a friend? The other man smiled. I'll take you out to play when I have time. We know a lot of fun places. No need. And Xiaoran and Luo Li both refused again. After being rejected one after another, the two men lost face. The long-haired man's smile disappeared and he yelled angrily, hey, are you really so disrespectful? Do you know who we are? The expressions of the two girls immediately changed. But the next second, a person came from the aisle and slapped him hard on the back of the head. With a bang, his face came into close contact with their computer desktop. He let out a scream of "R." The other one looked at Shen Chen, who was standing in front of him with an indifferent expression in horror. And Xiaoran and Luo Li were also startled by Shen Chen's sudden appearance. The evil look on the young man's face made Luo Li's first reaction be to run away. It's so scary, it seems like it's going to kill someone, woo woo woo. And Xiaoran curled up the corners of his mouth, looking at Shen Chen, his eyes as soft and beautiful as the morning lake. Her prince fell from the sky again. Chapter 20. Can I come in? On the other side, Ji Kai poked Dalong and Luobo and motioned for them to look at Shen Chen. Fuck your mother, who is it? The man who was held down screamed and tried his best to break free, but the palm on the back of his head was like an iron lock, holding him firmly in place. Dammit, let me go. Otherwise. He roared angrily. The pressure on the back of his head suddenly eased, but instead someone grabbed his hair and pulled his head from the table. Shen Chen leaned down slightly, letting the man's face him, and the narrow black eyes under the broken hair showed cold sternness. Otherwise, so what? Otherwise what? Dalong and the other two people also came over. Ji Kai squeezed his knuckles and asked with a fierce look on his face. Only then did the man see clearly that it was Shen Chen and Da Long. He shuddered and begged for mercy. It's not that good, it's not that good. I'm just talking nonsense. I was wrong. Let me go. Shen Chen glanced at Xiaoran, then let go of his hand expressionlessly, and uttered one word from his thin lips, get out. When he saw Xiaoran and Luo Li just now, he didn't want to show up. But he didn't expect that someone would dare to bully his little girl. Damn, I got angry immediately. But he knew that his image in the eyes of others was bad enough, so he resisted the thought of teaching the long-haired man a lesson. Otherwise it would be more than just a little bit of pain. Luo Li was speechless and couldn't believe her eyes. The school bully actually helped them. Impossible, it must be an illusion. But she pinched herself quietly. It hurts so much. The long-haired man and his companions went to the front desk to exit the machine almost as fast as they could escape. There are exactly 2 machines available. Shen Chen glanced at them. You have a free flight, come on. Luo Li still seemed to be in a dream, passed by like a wandering ghost, and sat down. And Xiaoran looked at Shen Chen, with curved lips and twinkling eyes, thank you. No need. Shen Chen raised his eyebrows and replied nonchalantly. But I thought to myself, his little girl looks so pretty when she smiles. Dalong and the other 3 looked at Shen Chen with excitement and meaning. Dalong patted him on the shoulder. Do you know each other? Shen Chen's eyes wandered. We know each other, from the same school. The 3 of them suddenly realized. Dalong immediately cleared his throat and said to Xiaoran in a gentlemanly manner, hello, classmate. It's a pity that no matter how serious he is, he still looks like a beast in clothes. And Xiaoran thought that although they looked a bit fierce, since they were Shen Chen's friends, they must also be good people. The little girl smiled shyly and said politely, it's good for you too. So good. Just call me Dalong. Dalong sighed in his heart, and pointed at Ji Kai and Luo Bo, these 2 are Kaizi and Luobua. We are all buddies who grew up with Shen Chen. And Xiaoran also smiled at them, hello to you, my name isn't Xiaoran. Ji Kai nodded. Hello, hello. Luo Bo almost floated. Seeing her smiling at them, Shen Chen was a little unhappy, so he kicked Dalong on the butt and said in a warning tone, go and have fun with you. Dalong chuckled and said to Ji Kai and Luo Bo, let's go CS. Shen Chen took the drink and returned to the box. The door was obviously closed, but knowing that Xiaoran was separated from him by a wall, the speed of typing orders was 2 minutes slower. My thoughts keep flying away. On the other side, Xiaoran was browsing the web, while Luo Li was sitting there, playing Stone Age absent-mindedly. After a while, the pet hung up several times. She simply stopped playing and poked Xiaoran sideways. When Xiaoran looked at her, she asked suspiciously, Xiaoran, was it really Shen Chen who helped us just now? Xiaoran tilted her head, yes, what's wrong? Luo Li was puzzled, why? Why does he want to help us? Xiaoran smiled, why is this so strange? He is already very good. Luo Li frowned and shook her head like a rattle, her ponytails swinging back and forth. No, I don't believe it. He must have some conspiracy. His friends don't look like good people at first glance. Don't judge people by their appearance. Xiaoran looked at her seriously, I used to be often called ugly. I don't like it. Lori. Oh, it's over, I said the wrong thing, I feel so guilty. She said hurriedly, okay, I won't judge people by appearance, don't take it to heart. Then, Luo Li glanced at the screen and screamed, oh my god, I'm going to die. She frantically operated the game and said to Xiaoran, come and play too. This game is fun. You can train pets. I'll teach you. Xiaoran pursed her lips and smiled, I want to look at the webpage, you can play by yourself first. Okay. Rory focused on the battle. Xiaoran read the webpage for a while, stopped, and then raised her long eyelashes and cast her clear eyes towards the box in front. Boom boom. There was a knock on the box door. Shen Chen stopped what he was doing, turned off the monitor, and then went over to open the door. The next second, when he saw the girl standing outside the door, he was stunned for a second, and then asked expressionlessly, are you looking for me? And Xiaoran asked softly, "Can I come in?" "What's up?" She blinked, her long eyelashes fluttering, and whispered, "It's okay, but can I come in?" Shen Chen was silent for a long time, and he really couldn't bear to say rejection. Sideways to get out of the way, "Come in." After closing the door, he returned to his seat, turned on the monitor again, and continued. And Xiaoran sat down next to him. She held her cheek and looked at him quietly and intently. There was a slight smile on her little face, and her big eyes were shining brightly under a few strands of bangs, as if stars had fallen inside. When she looked at her like this, Shen Chen's heart almost turned to water. He stared at the screen, coughed lightly, and said calmly, "Don't just sit there stupidly. You can play on the computer next to you." "Oh." She responded obediently and started playing on the computer. Shen Chen glanced out of the corner of his eye. She was actually playing Free Cell very seriously, and after a while, she started playing Minesweeper again. This little fool. Shen Chen wanted to laugh. After clearing an advanced Minesweeper level, and Xiaoran smiled happily, and then looked at Shen Chen again. Seeing the string of codes on the screen in front of him, she blinked, full of curiosity. "What are you doing? Can you tell me?" Shen Chen couldn't bear to hurt her curiosity and explained, "I'm looking for loopholes in this security software, and it's almost over." He estimated the time, it will take half an hour at most. And Xiaoran opened his eyes slightly, "Really? You still know this?" Her eyes were bright, as if to say, "You are so awesome." Under the little girl's eyes full of surprise and admiration, Shen Chen suppressed his feeling of excitement and said calmly with his handsome face, "It's okay, it's just a joke." Chapter 21. Then we are the same family. 20 minutes later, Shen Chen completed the vulnerability test and wrote a detailed report. Then, he first posted a reply on the Hacker Hub task page of the software company, stating that he had found a vulnerability. At the same time, he also sent part of the vulnerability information in the form of an email through the email address left by the other party. Passed. All that's left is to wait for the other party to reply. Generally speaking, the process is that after the other party receives the email, they will evaluate the possibility of the vulnerability given by Shen Chen. After confirming that it is a vulnerability, they will reply to the email and agree to pay the bonus. At that time, Shen Chen will submit the complete details of the vulnerability. After the other party confirms that it is correct again, he will reply with the final result and ask Shen Chen to provide his bank account number. After Shen Chen submits his bank information, they will make payments in batches to ensure that the secret will not be leaked before the vulnerability is fixed. The entire payment cycle is generally about 45 days. If everything goes well, he will receive $100,000 in 1.5 months. Thinking of this, Shen Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly. With this money as startup capital, many things will be much easier to do. He stretched out contentedly, leaned back, and glanced in Xiaoran's direction. She no longer played Minesweeper, but once again held her cheek and looked at him. Seeing Shen Chen stop moving, she sat up straight and smiled. "Are you done?" "Yeah." Shen Chen asked knowingly, "Why do you always look at me?" And Xiaoran blushed, pinched her thin fingers, and whispered, "Because I like you." Shen Chen didn't respond. After a while, he said, "I just want to study hard and don't plan to fall in love prematurely." And Xiaoran was stunned for a moment. After realizing the meaning of his words, she felt a little disappointed, but then she became happy again. Shen Chen wants to study hard, which is a good thing. Of course, she won't give up liking him. She is patient. What's more, he said he didn't fall in love prematurely, he didn't say he hated her. So she nodded her little head vigorously, with a smile on her face. "Well, that's right, we should all study hard." Outside the box, Luo Li was busy controlling her pets to fight monsters, and she didn't notice when Xiaoran was gone and when there was another figure next to her. "Do you like to play Stone Age?" A voice suddenly came to my ears. Luo Li was startled and turned to look over. He was one of the 3 people who met Shen Chen just now. He was 18 or 19 years old, and his facial features were not ugly, but his face was covered with acne and looked like the surface of the moon. When he saw her looking over, he immediately grinned. Luo Li suddenly became nervous. Although Shen Chen helped her and Xiaoran just now, which made her change a little bit, these people are Shen Chen's friends, and it is impossible to do anything to her in a public place like an internet cafe, but she's still quite scared. "You may want to ignore it, but you dare not." After struggling for a long time, she finally forced out a smile that was uglier than crying. Yes. My name is Luobo, what's your name? Luobo continued to ask. Lori. Your last name is also Luo. Then we are relatives. What do you call this? It's a natural fate. Luobo said happily. Who wants to be your relative? Lori was depressed. Robo said excitedly, by the way, which zone do you play in Stone Age? I have an account too, let's see if we are in the same zone. Lori stammered a district. Oh, no. Robo said with some regret. Lori was thankful. After a few seconds, Luobo's eyes suddenly lit up. How about I apply for a new account in your area so we can play together? Luoli was so scared that she waved her hands. I don't have time to play. I'm about to get off the plane. Why rush? It's still early. Let's play for a while. Really, I really want to get off. Luobo felt very sorry, thought for a moment, and then said. Okay then, what's your QQ number? How about we add each other as friends? Lori shook her head like a rattle. I don't have QQ. Is there anyone who doesn't have a QQ number? Luobo was surprised for a second. Well, I'll help you apply for one and add you as a friend. Lori is really going crazy. How could she not have a QQ number? I just don't want to give it to him. Can't he understand what I mean? I have never seen such an annoying person. I want to refuse coldly but I dare not. What if I offend the big boss in society? Woo, she is just a weak, simple and fragile little fairy. I'm scared to death. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Luobo said shamelessly, if you don't object, then I'll take it as your consent. I'll help you apply. Before he could finish his words, someone kicked him on the chair and he almost fell down. Luobo got up and yelled, Fuck, Kaizi, what are you crazy about? This is Ching's classmate, can you please stop being so coquettish? Ji Kai put his hands in his trouser pockets and snorted coldly, I think you are embarrassing. Just making friends. There are so many girls on your QQ who want to be your friends, isn't that enough? Fuck it, forget it. Rob dusted himself off angrily and left. Ji Kai also left. Lori finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then she wondered where Xiaoran had gone. Just when I thought of this, I saw a door of the internet cafe box open, and Shen Chen and Xiaoran walked out one after another. Luoli was stunned, she should have thought of it earlier. Seeing that it was getting late, Shen Chen and Dalong said hello, then picked up their school bags and left. And Xiaoran waved to him, and Shen Chen didn't stop, but slightly raised the corners of his lips at her. The young man's stern face was covered with a very faint layer of tenderness because of this smile. When Xiaoran saw it, his eyebrows and eyes curved up. He watched Shen Chen leave, and then returned to Luoli with brisk steps. Then I noticed the sad face of my deskmate. Xiaoran, why are you unhappy? What happened? Luoli puffed out her cheeks angrily. You are a heartless little scoundrel who values sex over friends all day long. You left me here alone. So that's how it is. Xiaoran blinked, gently shook her arm, and said coquettishly, Don't be angry, I'll treat you to some cornetto, okay? Upon hearing this, Lori's saliva was about to flow out. At that time, a popsicle cost 3 yuan. She didn't have much pocket money, so she couldn't afford to buy popsicles. If she wanted to eat popsicles, she would usually buy a doll head popsicle for 50 cents or a mungbin popsicle for 30 cents to satisfy her craving. She asked hesitantly, Is this true? Cornetto costs $3 apiece. The girl said generously, Of course it's true. Okay then, I won't be polite. I want chocolate flavor. Lori said after hesitating for a moment. Although Xiaoran wore a school uniform like other students, the stationery and shoes she used were all branded goods, which showed that she came from a well-off family. One cute one should be fine. Chapter 22. The little girl was a little nervous and blurted out, Hello, Mom. The two little girls went to the front desk to pay, and then each picked a cornetto at the small supermarket at the door. One chocolate flavor and one milk flavor. After Xiaoran paid the bill, she and Luoli ate ice cream while walking towards the bus stop. Lori was so happy. It's so delicious that I can't bear to eat it all at once. While licking the cute doll, she asked Xiaoran, Just now, were you and Shen Chen alone in the same room? Xiaoran nodded. Luoli asked gossipingly, So, nothing happened between you two? And Xiaoran blinked her big eyes. What happened? Lori looked at the innocent little girl and asked in a different way, didn't you do anything special? And Xiaoran thought for a moment and said, nothing. He is working on his computer. And you? Me. I played solitaire first, then Minesweeper, and then. The little girl looked up at the sky, recalling seriously, I felt a little bored, so I just watched him. He looked so focused on what he was doing, and his eyelashes were so long, I almost wanted to touch them. That's it. And Xiaoran thought for a moment and then said, he said he wanted to study hard and not fall in love too early. R. Lori was stunned. Why did the 4 words, study hard, make her feel so uncomfortable when used to describe Shen Chen? Could it be that the school bully is going to turn over a new leaf? No, she didn't believe it. She asked again, in that case, will you still pursue him? Chase. And Xiaoran replied seriously, it's his business to agree or not, and it's my business to pursue him or not. Anyway, I only like him. I'm so stunned. Luoli was speechless. When Shen Chen came home, it was already 7 o'clock in the evening, and Shen Yaoxing and Xu Hongxia were already at home. As soon as he walked in, Xu Hongxia, who was preparing dinner, came out of the kitchen and glared at her son angrily. What time did you come back? You've been having fun all day. How are you? Are you hungry? Although his tone was filled with disgust, he couldn't help but express concern in the end. Shen Chen chuckled, I'm already hungry, Mom, hurry up and cook. Whatever urges you to do, it's being done. It'll be ready soon. Xu Hongxia rolled her eyes at her son and said, hurry up and take a shower and change clothes. Shen Chen responded. When he came out from the shower, Xu Hongxia had also prepared the meal. Braised pork ribs, steamed wuchang fish, and fried shredded radish. Shen Chen walked to the table, picked up a piece of braised pork ribs with his hands and put it into his mouth, chewing and praising, oh, the braised pork ribs made by my mother are really, really amazing. You don't know how to use chopsticks. Xu Hongxia said angrily. Shen Chen laughed. Come on, let's have dinner together. Shen Yaoxing said. Shen Chen usually has to study at night, so the family of 3 can only have dinner together on weekends. After finishing the meal, Shen Yaoxing went to wash the dishes, and Xu Hongxia cleared the table. Suddenly she remembered something and stretched out her hand to her son. Where is the monthly exam report card? Has it been sent? Shen Chen touched his nose, walked back to the room, took out the report card from his school bag, and came back and handed it to his mother. Xu Hongxia took it, looked at it a few times, and couldn't help but sigh. 31st in the class, grade 606. You will be a sophomore in high school after the summer vacation. There are only 2 years left. If you don't seize the time and work hard, what will you do if it's too late? Your parents don't have to force you to take the exam at Tsinghua University and Peking University. They just hope that you will try your best to avoid regrets in the future. After a pause, she shook her head helplessly. From the novel to adulthood, at most, elementary school was replaced by junior high school, and then junior high school was replaced by high school. I'm tired of talking about it. This kid's ears are probably getting calloused. He's already listened to it if he can. Shen Yaoxing was coming out from washing the dishes. When he saw this scene, he comforted his wife, don't worry about it anymore. Children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. Xu Hongxia was angry, can you not worry about it? He is my biological child. Shen Yaoxing chuckled, isn't that also my biological child? Xu Hongxia curled her lips and said, that's not necessarily true. Shen Yaoxing. Heartbroken. Mom, I will study hard. Shen Chen raised his lips and smiled, and said in a relaxed tone, go to the best university, and then you can brag to Aunt Liu and the others that your son has passed. Well, how about Peking University and Tsinghua University? Xu Hongxia was amused by his words. She stretched out her finger, poked her son's forehead gently, and scolded her with a smile, what kind of tone do you have? You still want Peking University and Tsinghua University. You think Peking University and Tsinghua University are just cabbage on the roadside. Can you choose whatever you want for a cent a pound? With your grades, how can you go to Peking University, Tsinghua University, or Peking University Jade Bird? Shen Chen thought, he still had to rely on his strength to speak. After dinner, he went back to his room to study. Xu Hongxia secretly opened the door and took a look several times. She found that her son was actually doing his homework seriously, instead of reading comics and playing with the guitar as before, and suddenly she had mixed feelings. My son has really become sensible, grown up, and started to work hard. She thought, turned around and went to the kitchen again. Studying takes a lot of time, so you should take more nutrition and make some chicken soup for your son. At dawn the next day, Shen Chen and his wife got up. They had to rush to the noodle shop early to buy vegetables, prepare ingredients, make soup, and prepare for the opening of the business. Shen Chen is still sleeping. He didn't go to bed until after 12 o'clock last night, and he was at the age where he was addicted to sleep, so he didn't wake up that early. Xu Hongxie looked at her son's door lovingly and left a note on the table, saying that there was a bowl of chicken noodle soup left in the refrigerator. She could heat it up and eat it by herself. She would heat up yesterday's meal for lunch and make dinner when they come back. After leaving the note, the couple went out. The noodle shop run by Shen Chen's family is not far from home, only about 300 to 400 meters away. The name is Lao Shen Noodle Shop, which is quite down to earth. There are many residential areas nearby, plus the prices are affordable and the taste is authentic, so the noodle shop's business is pretty good. The peak dining period is from 7 to 9 in the morning, and the couple is extremely busy. After 9 o'clock, the store became deserted. Xu Hongxia was cleaning up the leftover dishes from the previous customer, while Shen Yaoxing turned on the small TV in the store and watched the news. At this time, Shen Chen pushed the door in from outside. "Dad, I'm starving, give me a bowl of noodles," he shouted as soon as he came in. "Hey! Didn't I leave you a note asking you to cook a bowl of chicken noodle soup?" Xu Hongxia looked at her son in surprise. "It's on the dinner table, didn't you see it?" "I don't want to eat chicken noodle soup," Shen Chen said confidently. "Xu Hongxia, how old are you to be picky about food?" Okay, what noodles do you want to eat?" Shen Yaoxing asked with a smile. "Beef noodles." Shen Chen suddenly shrugged his nose slightly and wrinkled his brows in confusion. Why is there such a strong smell of gas? The smell of gas, the couple wondered. Why didn't they smell it? Shen Chen quickly went straight to the kitchen. After entering, he looked serious. "This is it. The smell is getting stronger and stronger." The couple who followed also smelled it carefully. "I don't know if it's a psychological effect, but it seems to be a bit. Hurry up and have someone check it out." Shen Chen frowned and said solemnly, "This is no joke. If something happens one day, it will be on the headlines of the social media." Xu Hongxia was so angry that she pinched his ears. "You brat has a crow's mouth, can't you say something nice?" "I'll make a call," Shen Yaoxing said. There was a telephone in the noodle shop, so he called the gas company. It didn't take long for the gas company staff to arrive. After inspection, it was found that the gas hose used in the noodle shop was a brand name product and had shown signs of aging. If it was not replaced in time, it might lead to serious consequences. They replaced their hose with a new one and checked that there was no abnormality. They also told them to do inspections every 6 months and not to be careless. Xu Hongxia and Shen Yaoxing agreed quickly. As Shen Chen watched from the side, the biggest stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. In this way, the tragedy of the previous life should never happen again. His parents, the two most important people in the world, will be fine. By the time everything was settled, the sun had climbed to the middle of the sky. The number of customers in the noodle shop gradually increased. Shen Chen wanted to stay and help, but Xu Hongxia told him to go home and study hard. He said he didn't care about these 2 hours, but Xu Hongxia retorted, "Time is precious, and there are only more than 700 days until the college entrance examination. We can't waste a day. If you work harder for 1 minute, you may get 1 more point, and this point may be enough. It's about your future." Shen Chen. Just then, a girl came into the store. When he saw Shen Chen, he first said, in confusion, and then his round deer eyes suddenly widened. The corners of his mouth curved up, and his voice was full of surprise and happiness. "Shen Chen." Shen Chen was also surprised. "Why are you here?" "And Xiaoran, I was out for a walk, and I was a little hungry and wanted to eat a bowl of noodles." What a coincidence. She was a little embarrassed to tell the truth. In fact, she knew the approximate location of Shen Chen's house, so she subconsciously came nearby. There is a small longing deep in her heart. What if I could have an encounter with Shen Chen? Unexpectedly, I actually met him in this noodle shop. This is fate. The little girl couldn't help but feel joy in her heart. That joy was like a sudden burst of a little flower bursting out of the barren and lifeless land, swaying in the wind, bright and bright. Her eyebrows are curved and she smiles beautifully. Shen Chen's heart beat twice. When he was about to speak, Xu Hongxie interrupted. Shen Chen, is she your classmate? As she asked, she looked at Xiaoran, sighing in her heart that this little girl was so pretty. Shen Chen nodded. Then why don't you hurry up and ask your classmates to sit down? Xu Hongxie said angrily, then smiled and said to Xiaoran, little girl, come on, sit down first. And Xiaoran was pulled to an empty table and sat down like a marionette. Then, she looked at Shen Chen in confusion. Shen Chen coughed lightly, this is my mother, and this is my family's noodle shop. It turns out to be Shen Chen's mother. Then I should say hello and how to address myself. The little girl was a little nervous and blurted out, hello, Mom. Xu Hongxie. This progress is a bit fast. Shen Chen almost died laughing. Only then did Xiaoran realize. She just wanted to find a crack in the ground to get in. She quickly blushed and said, I made a mistake just now. It's Shen Chen's mother. My name isn't Xiaoran. I'm Shen Chen's schoolmate, classmate. Xu Hongxie smiled and said, it doesn't matter. There is a menu on the wall. You can order whatever you want. Auntie's treat. And Xiaoran waved her hands hurriedly, no need, I brought the money. You are Shen Chen's classmate, and this is your first time here. Don't be polite to Auntie. Xu Hongxie said without refusal, how about beef noodles? Shen Chen loves beef noodles the most. Shen Chen also curled up his lips, our beef noodles are not enough to sell every day. Seeing what he said, and Xiaoran nodded obediently and said softly, okay, then. I'll just eat beef noodles, thank you Auntie. Can you eat spicy food? Okay. The little girl nodded. Xu Hongxie was very happy, hey, you are much better than my son. He doesn't like spicy food at all. Really, he doesn't look like a person from Chu City. After saying that, she turned around and went to the kitchen, where she arranged for her husband to cook noodles. Shen Chen, who was innocently lying at gunpoint. Why did you pull it on him again? He can eat spicy food, but what's wrong if he doesn't like spicy food? Can't people have something they don't like to eat? It's not illegal. And Xiaoran glanced at Shen Chen, covered her mouth and smiled secretly. She didn't know that Shen Chen didn't like spicy food. Remember it well. Oh, you still dare to laugh at me? Shen Chen pretended to be indifferent and glared at her fiercely. The little girl misunderstood and thought that Shen Chen was angry. Her smile faded and she lowered her eyes a little uneasily. Her hands nervously pinched the corners of her clothes under the table. What should I do? Will it make Shen Chen annoying? Then Shen Chen saw her pursed lips, her eye circles a little red, aggrieved but trying not to show a strange and awkward expression. Shen Chen. His heart suddenly softened and he said, I'm just teasing you, I'm not angry. And Xiaoran raised her head and asked softly, really? Shen Chen wanted to raise his hand to rub her head, but he endured it and just said, yeah. I'm just joking with you, I'm not that stingy. And Xiaoran opened her eyes wide, her worries turned into joy, and she nodded obediently. Here comes the noodles. At this time, Xu Hongxie brought over a big bowl of steaming beef noodles. The noodle soup is filled with red butter, a few green vegetables, white and thin handmade noodles, a mountain of beef and coriander. The aroma is so fragrant that it makes you salivate. Come, try it while it's hot. Xu Hongxie handed over a pair of chopsticks with a smile. And Xiaoran thanked him, took the chopsticks, carefully picked up a few noodles, put them into his mouth, and chewed gently. Every movement was very delicate. Xu Hongxie observed her expression carefully. The little girl's eyes suddenly lit up, she looked up, and said sincerely, it's really delicious. I wasn't lying to you. Xu Hongxie was very satisfied with her reaction, if you like it, eat more. Yes. And Xiaoran nodded heavily. Xu Hongxie said to Shen Chen, please greet your classmates properly. Mom will go to work first. Shen Chen said, yeah, and sat down diagonally opposite Xiaoran. Chapter 23. Let us study together. At that time, the Guangdong and Shenzhen markets were thousands of miles away. There is a CEO sign hanging outside the door of a certain office. The interior space of the office is small and slightly cluttered. The glass bookcases on both sides are filled with various computer books in Chinese and English, highlighting the identity of the owner. Sitting in front of the table was a man with a rather elegant appearance wearing gold-rimmed glasses, who was carefully flipping through several printed documents. Boom boom. There was a knock on the door. The man did not put down the document. Come in. A short man pushed open the door and entered. Pony, check out Hacker Hub. Someone has actually completed that pin task. The short, high-pitched tone showed the excitement in his heart. The man called Pony paused for a moment before he raised his slender eyes under his glasses and looked at him. He asked in surprise, "Is this the top task issued by Nordun Security Company?" As far as he could remember, that task had been on the top for more than a year. Faced with the sky-high reward of $100,000, almost all the experts in the field of computer security in the world have challenged it, but all ended in failure. He also tried it out of curiosity, but also failed. Is there anyone who can actually complete it? Yes. The latter was very excited, and, if nothing unexpected happens, it is our compatriots who complete the task. Let me see. Pony Ma Huateng also became curious. He entered the homepage address of Hacker Hub in the browser, pressed enter, and entered the task area with ease. Then, with a click of the mouse, the details of the pin task were opened. Below the main post is a reply posted by an ID named Mr.S. The gist of it is that he has discovered a vulnerability in the Nodon software and has sent a general description of the vulnerability to the other party's email address. When registering a Hacker Hub ID, you need to fill in your nationality. Then, a small corresponding national flag icon will be generated behind the ID. Behind this Mr.S ID is a heart-shaking 5-star red flag. 10 minutes ago, Norton Company also responded to the other party's message, stating that it had initially determined that the vulnerability existed and asked the other party to submit detailed information about the vulnerability. Once they verify that it is correct, they will abide by their promise and issue a bonus of $100,000. Ma Huateng was speechless for a long time. Xu Chenai beside him said excitedly, "Holy shit, someone can really find out the loopholes of Nodon Company. I wonder who the other person is in our country's computer security. We at Tingshuan have just started, and we are in need of this talent. By the way, Pony, how about I send him a private message on the site and get to know him?" Ma Huateng took a few deep breaths and said decisively, "I will send it myself." And Xiaoran put down the chopsticks in his hands and rubbed his bulging belly with a satisfied expression. Shen Chen asked, "Are you full?" And Xiaoran nodded, "I'm full, it's really delicious." Shen Chen took out a tissue and handed it to her. "Thank you." And Xiaoran reached out to take it, and her fingertips accidentally touched Shen Chen's, and she was stunned for a moment as if she was electrocuted. When she reacted, she hurriedly lowered her head and wiped the corners of her mouth with a tissue. Shen Chen looked at her, with a faint smile in his narrow eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. And Xiaoran wiped her mouth and suddenly remembered something. She raised her head and said, "Classmate Shen Chen, thank you for yesterday's incident." "What's the matter?" Shen Chen said calmly. And Xiaoran smiled sweetly at him, "It's about how you helped me and Luoli get out of trouble at the internet cafe yesterday." Shen Chen said, "Oh. You have already thanked me." And Xiaoran, "I think just a word of thanks is not enough." Shen Chen tilted his head slightly with a nonchalant expression, "Then how do you want to thank me?" And Xiaoran pursed her lips and asked tentatively, "Shall we study together? Reading together?" And Xiaoran nodded and said seriously, "Study together and make progress together. My grades are not bad, so it shouldn't be a drag on you. If there's anything you don't understand, we can help each other." She tried her best to speak tactfully, taking into account Shen Chen's self-esteem. Shen Chen heard what she meant and thought the little fool was too cute. If you just take care of yourself a little, why do you need her help? However, this suggestion really moved his heart a little bit. "Are your grades okay?" Xu Hongxia, who appeared at some unknown time, suddenly lit up when she heard in Xiaoran's words, Can you tell auntie, how many points did you get in this monthly exam?" And Xiaoran was stunned for a moment, and then said the score. "Oh, it's so high." Shen Yaosheng, who was following him, was startled. "Then what's your ranking in the school?" Xu Hongxia asked excitedly. And Xiaoran blinked and whispered, "Third. Third in the school." The couple both gasped. In an instant, the look in Xiaoran's eyes changed. Their first impressions of Xiaoran were all very good. Not only was the little girl good-looking, but she was also polite and well-behaved. They didn't expect that she even had such good grades. Just now, they heard that the little girl offered to help her son study. She is so beautiful, smart and kind-hearted. So lovable. Shen Yaoxing smiled and said, "We welcome you to study with Chen Chen." "We welcome you so much." Xu Hongxie asked a little embarrassedly, "Would that be too much trouble for you?" And Xiaoran, "It's not troublesome, I'm very happy to study with Shen Chen." After a pause, she carefully added, "Auntie and uncle, don't worry, I just want to study with him, there won't be any other ideas. Of course we can rest assured." Xu Hongxie laughed, "Is it possible that you still fall in love with this silly boy of mine? Shen Chen?" And Xiaoran's face turned red quietly. Xu Hongxie slapped Shen Chen hard. "What are you doing so stupidly? Ran is so enthusiastic and wants to help you study, why don't you thank me quickly?" Shen Chen. "Okay, the names have changed." He looked at Xiaoran, met the girl's expectant eyes, raised his eyebrows, and said in a casual tone, "Whatever. You kid." Xu Hongxie glared at her son. And Xiaoran was extremely happy, and the light in his eyes was flowing, as bright as morning stars. "Then if you are fine this afternoon, we can start from this afternoon, okay?" "Okay, no problem." Xu Hongxie answered first, "He will be fine this afternoon." He glared at his son, "You dare to tell me that there is something wrong? Shen Chen, was he sold by his own mother like this?" After coming out of the noodle shop, and Xiaoran stood in front of Shen Chen, looked up at him, and smiled sweetly, "I'll go home and get my homework first. Let's do it together in the afternoon." In this way, she could learn about Shen Chen's study situation and help him in a targeted manner. Shen Chen teased her, "When did I agree to do homework with you? Just now, we agreed to study together." She was stunned. "Shen Chen, I regretted it." And Xiaoran said, and said a little anxiously, "You can't go back on your word. You are man, you have to keep your word." Chapter 24, Did you come to the library to pick up girls? Shen Chen pretended to be helpless and sighed, "Okay." She smiled, her eyes widened, "Then I'll go home first. Where can we meet later?" Shen Chen looked at her. Because it was the weekend, the girl didn't wear her hair in a ponytail. Instead, she braided a few strands of her long, dark hair into a thin braid, which she wrapped around her head. The rest of her hair was scattered behind her head. Compared with the well-behaved and clean girl at school, she looked even more beautiful and charming, like a gardenia bud about to bloom. She was wearing a white chiffon dress that just reached her knees. The dress had a small shirt collar. Perhaps because the weather was a little hot, the two buttons at the front were undone. He was taller than her, and from this distance he could just see her thin white neck and vaguely slender collarbone. His heartbeat quickened, his eyebrows furrowed, and he said coldly, "After you go back, change into your school uniform before coming out." "And Xiaoran?" she asked in confusion, "Why? This one is ugly." And Xiaoran was even more confused. "Is it ugly? She thinks it looks good." As middle school students, of course it is most appropriate and in line with our identities to wear school uniforms. School uniforms are youthful and energetic, simple and generous. And Xiaoran was dubious, "Do you really think so?" Shen Chen said firmly, "Of course." "Then, why don't you wear school uniform?" The little girl was confused. Wearing a t-shirt and jeans, Shen Chen said confidently, "It was just washed." "Oh." And Xiaoran believed it, "Okay, I'll just go home and change." Shen Chen continued fiercely, "Tie up your hair too. Don't wear it. But it looks better with it on. It looks beautiful when tied up. Your face shape is more suitable for a ponytail." And Xiaoran was stunned by his affirmative tone, "Do you really think that ponytail is more suitable for me?" Shen Chen nodded against his will. So, the little girl smiled sweetly, "Okay, you have the final say." Only then was Shen Chen satisfied. "Well, you go back first, and we will meet in the study room of the school library later. Do you know where the school library is?" "I know, Luo Li took me there last time, so I'll see you later." And Xiaoran waved to Shen Chen and ran towards the bus stop not far away. After returning to her uncle's house, she went to her room first. This room is not big, but it is very warmly decorated. There is a photo frame on the small desk. The photos inside are slightly yellowed, obviously some time has passed. The photo shows a beautiful woman holding a little girl of about 2 or 3 years old in her arms. The woman and the little girl have similar facial features, both with a pair of clear and clean doe eyes. The little girl has yellow hair braided into two sky-high braids, and is holding a lollipop in her hand, smiling innocently. And Xiaoran first changed her dress into a school uniform, then she combed her braids into a ponytail and quickly got dressed. After leaving the room, the girl was full of energy and her eyes were sparkling. She happily greeted her uncle Chen Chen, who was busy in the kitchen. "Uncle, I'm going out. I'm going to the library to study with my classmates." Chen Chen was very happy to hear that his niece was able to make friends so quickly after transferring to another school. He didn't ask much, but just said, "Then don't study too late, and try to come back before dinner." "Good." The little girl agreed, then skipped away humming a song. Chen Chen looked at his niece's back and couldn't help but smile. Shen Chen did not go home directly, but went to Chenqing Internet Cafe first, intending to see how the situation was at Hacker Hub and whether Node & Company had responded. Dalong and the others are not here today. As night owls, the three of them mostly hang out in the Internet Cafe from afternoon to early morning. But I met Boss He. When the other party saw Shen Chen, he immediately handed over a bottle of Coke with a smile. "Orange, here to play again?" "Yes." Shen Chen took it, said thank you again, turned to the cashier and asked, "Is there a private room?" The female cashier shook her head. "No more." "Boss," he said with a smile, "there are a lot of people now, and there are no empty planes. Please wait for a while. If there are empty planes, the front desk will arrange for you to board as soon as possible. The customer flow of internet cafes on weekends is greater than usual. In addition, Chenqing Internet Cafe's business is very good on weekdays. On weekends, it is even more crowded, and it is common to queue up to wait for a flight." After waiting for a while, he saw that the private room was not available. He was thinking about his date with Xiaoran. Shen Chen could only put down a note at the front desk, "Keep the private room for me when there is a private room later. I'll come back later." After going home and picking up his school bag and homework, Shen Chen rode his bicycle to school. Although it is the weekend, the library of Experimental High School is still open. When he arrived at the study room, he didn't see Xiaoran. He looked at the time and saw that only more than 40 minutes had passed. She probably hadn't arrived yet, so Shen Chen found an empty seat and sat down, opening the bag he had brought. Textbooks and homework are done. Because it was the weekend, there were not many students in the library. In the empty study room, Shen Chen, who was immersed in studying, attracted quite a lot of attention. Some students recognized him and thought they had seen a ghost. "Isn't that Shen Chen? He will also come to the library. Dammit, I can't admit the wrong person." Just after finishing a few multiple choice questions, I heard the patter of footsteps approaching. Shen Chen looked up and saw that it was Xiaoran, who had changed into school uniform and tied her hair into a ponytail. She was also carrying a white backpack. She smiled obediently at him. "I'm late. Have you waited too long?" "No," Shen Chen said. And Xiaoran sat down opposite him, then took off the school bag from behind, took out the textbooks and homework, the pink-covered coil notebook, and the pink pencil case with a white bear printed on it, and said, "Let us do our homework first and then see if there are any problems after we finish it." Shen Chen said, "Yeah." The two of them are not in the same class, and the progress is not exactly the same, so they can only do their own things first. Although Shen Chen has been reviewing during this period, after all, the time is too short, and a large number of knowledge points have not been firmly memoized. He often has to flip through the textbook to do the questions, which wastes a lot of time. In addition, the question types are not familiar, which slows down the speed even more. When Xiaoran finished all their homework, Shen Chen still had 2 subjects left, plus half of the physics test paper. The little girl held her chin in her hands and waited patiently for him. She looked at the attentive young man and couldn't help but quietly curl her lips. His serious look is really good looking. I can't seem to get tired of watching it. I really want to watch it forever. At this time, the breeze outside the window was gently blowing the green leaves, making a rustling sound, and the sunlight lazily sprinkled in, making the study room bright and clean. The boy was frowning in thought, and opposite him, the girl was smiling with her chin in her hand, her eyes as gentle as water. This scene is as beautiful as a painting. It is simply unbearable to destroy. A student suddenly realized, so, the school bully came to the library to pick up girls. Chapter 25, Playing Hard to Get, The Prodigal Son's Return. Some people questioned, why go to the school library to pick up girls? Wouldn't it be better to go to other places, such as dance halls and movie theaters. Stupid. I know that girl. Her name is Xiaoran. She is a transfer student from class 4. It is said that many people have voted her as the new campus beauty of our school. Not only is she beautiful, she also ranked third in the grade in the monthly exam. How can she be the same as those superficial and vain girls? The former student had a serious look on his face. If you want to chase her, you have to go with her, and the best place to do it is the library. Wait, you're wrong. Someone else retorted in a low voice. As far as I know, it seems that Xiaoran took the initiative to approach Shen Chen and chase him. The student racked his brains for a while and suddenly slapped his thigh. I know, Shen Chen must be playing hard to get and the prodigal son will turn around. The student next to me humbly asked for advice. What is the trick of playing hard to get and the prodigal son turning back? As the saying goes, if a man is not bad, a woman will not love him. The student analyzed carefully. First of all, Shen Chen deliberately used his image as a cold and prodigal son to arouse her interest. Everyone was all ears. Then, when Xiaoran had a crush on him, he used a distant approach to push and pull in a hidden way, creating a sense of mystery and freshness. He continued his analysis. If people's hearts are not enough, they can't get what they want. It's always the best, no matter whether it's a man or a woman. In this way, Xiaoran will take the initiative to approach him. This is what is called playing hard to get. Everyone nodded. The student was very satisfied with everyone's reaction, and continued to talk, and today, Shen Chen chose to come to the library, which is the most critical move the prodigal son turns back. Everyone's curiosity for knowledge is high. How do you say it? The student sighed. Girls like Xiaoran are often naive and kind-hearted. They always think they are the last girl who can make the prodigal son turn back. So, as long as the bad boy shows that he has a tendency to change for the better, they will often be fooled and take on the noble mission of making the prodigal son turn over a new leaf without hesitation. In fact, they don't know that most of the time, the bad boys are just playing a game with them, where the hunter lures the prey. They are just the prey, falling into the trap without knowing it, and in the end, they can only end up hurt physically and mentally. Everyone gasped and immediately stood in awe. As expected, the analysis was insightful and to the point. Listening to your words is better than reading for 10 years. What a master! Oh, this girl is so innocent. So kind. Finally, the student gave Xiaoran a final word with a deep look, and his face was full of pain. She is no match for someone like Shen Chen. When I think about it, she, a girl as innocent as a little white flower, fell into a trap carefully laid by the school bully. I feel uncomfortable. Some people were filled with indignation. Who is going to expose Shen Chen's true face? Everyone looked at him as if they were a fool. You're looking for death. Aren't you afraid that the school bully will kill you? Shen Chen and Xiaoran didn't know that this group of students had already brainstormed a 100,000-word sadomasochism novel. Shen Chen continued to do the test papers. Xiaoran looked at him for a while and asked him softly, "Can I see your homework?" After seeing Shen Chen nod, she took the copies that Shen Chen had finished in her hand, started reading them, and sometimes wrote something in her notebook. After Shen Chen finished the remaining homework, Xiaoran took her notebook, which contained the notes she had just compiled based on Shen Chen's homework. She pushed the notebook in front of him and pointed it out to him one by one with her pen. It's like this: I just looked at your English and chemistry homework. In the English part, you made more mistakes in tense-related knowledge points, and the other one is the close part. In addition, these chemistry questions. When she spoke, she lowered her head, and a few naughty locks of hair slipped out from her temples and floated beside her fair cheeks, swaying gently with her breathing. Very beautiful. Shen Chen looked at her and didn't listen to a word. By the way, did you buy extracurricular reference materials or something like that? Xiaoran raised her head and blinked, ? Shen Chen coughed. What did you ask just now? The little girl pursed her lips and repeated softly, in addition to the materials required by the teachers in school, did you also buy any extracurricular reference materials? Without. He hasn't had time to buy it yet. Then let's go buy them together later. I happen to want to buy a few copies too. I didn't bring any before. The little girl asked very understandingly, okay. Shen Chen leaned back and said in a lazy tone, it doesn't matter, I'm fine anyway. That's agreed. She smiled sweetly, let's pick out some materials now and review them from the basics tomorrow. Shen Chen originally wanted to say it was not necessary, but when his words came to his lips, he said, okay, let's go. The two packed their school bags and left the school. There are several bookstores next to the school, which not only sell various reference books and extracurricular books, but also various stationery for study and some exquisite gadgets that students like. And Xiaoran and Luo Li had already gone shopping before, so she took Shen Chen and walked in the direction of the teaching aid books in a familiar way. Soon, we came to the first grade area. The little girl picked it up seriously. Shen Chen put his hands in his pockets and leaned to the side to wait. His casual handsomeness made the girls around him look at him unconsciously, but they were blocked by his cold temperament. And Xiaoran carefully selected for a long time. She first selected the materials she thought were most suitable for each subject of Shen Chen, and then selected 2 books for herself. She wanted to pick up the books she had chosen, but Shen Chen had already stretched out his hand in front of her and picked up the large stack of information. Any more? Let's start with these. The little girl thought for a while, don't buy too much first. Shen Chen carried this large stack of books to pay. The cashier clicked on the calculator and finally said, 285 in total. Oh, okay. And Xiaoran nodded and reached out and took out a small rabbit wallet. But Shen Chen was faster than her. He had already taken out 3 red bills and put them on the cashier. I'll pay. And Xiaoran was stunned for a moment and reminded him, there is still my book in it. Shen Chen ignored him. And Xiaoran gently tugged at the corner of his clothes. Shen Chen. I just have to pay for myself. Shen Chen glanced at her, don't argue, I'll count your tuition fee. The little girl said, oh, obediently, then thought of something else and ran to the side. After a while, Shen Chen took the change and put his books into his school bag. There were so many books that they couldn't fit in them and they were heavy to carry. Then he took in Xiaoran's 2 books and turned back to look for her. He glanced around and saw no one. Chapter 26, It's Your Own Fault. Shen Chen looked carefully again and saw the section where she was selling stationery, wondering what she was choosing. I guess I need to buy stationery. Shen Chen thought about it and waited for her where he was. But the little girl turned back and waved to him, Chen, come here. When Shen Chen walked over, she was holding several notebooks, a little undecided, and asked him with her big eyes blinking, which one of these notebooks do you think is better? Shen Chen glanced at it and clicked on the one with a pink cherry cover. Okay. The little girl happily put it aside and took out a few more books. Where are these? Shen Chen ordered another book with foundation and white marshmallow pattern. The little girl looked at the 2 notebooks and seemed to understand something. Do you think pink looks good? Shen Chen thought it was right, pink suited her better, so he nodded. Oh, I know. The little girl nodded vigorously, picked out several pink notebooks, bought a few gel pens with pink shells, a box of gel pen refills, and went to the cashier. Tower. After paying the money, she handed all the pink stationery in her hand to Shen Chen. Here, it's for you. Shen Chen. The little girl blinked, go on. Shen Chen was confused, what are you doing for me? I see that you don't have a single subject notebook and only a pen, so I bought it for you. She smiled with a crooked eyebrow. So, these were chosen for me. Yes. She handed the things in her hand forward again, raised her head, and looked at him expectantly. You will not live if you do your own misfortune. Shen Chen accepted it resignedly. And Xiaoran, carrot, sure enough, you made the right choice. After shopping, dusk was already setting. Shen Chen pushed the bicycle, with both school bags thrown into the basket in front of the bicycle. And Xiaoran walked beside him, about half a meter away from them. Not long after, we arrived at the bus stop. Not far away, a bus was slowly approaching. Shen Chen stopped, stretched out his hand, and gave in Xiaoran's school bag to her. And Xiaoran put her school bag on her back, looked at him expectantly, and said, let's meet in the library at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, okay? Shen Chen curled his lips and answered. And Xiaoran pursed her lips and smiled. At this time, the car door opened and she got in the car. When she found a seat and sat down, she saw from the window that Shen Chen had already left on his bicycle, and his long shadow was shrouded in the warm sunset, gradually moving away. She waved slightly at his back, her sweet smile reflected in the window. See you tomorrow. Shen Chen went to Qianqing Internet Cafe first. Dalong and Ji Yukai were in the eternal CS, quarreling as always. Luobo was chatting on QQ with a lewd smile on his face, and would switch out to watch movies from time to time. The female cashier at the front desk said, the box is reserved for you. Good. Enter the box, turn on the computer, log into their Hacker Hub website, and go straight to the Node & Company's mission reward page. Then, Shen Chen saw the reply from Node & Company to him. The other party initially confirmed the existence of the vulnerability he submitted and asked Shen Chen to fully exploit the vulnerability to their official email. Shen Chen moved his fingers a few times and started typing on the keyboard quickly. At the same time, in Guangdong Shenzhen City, inside the office of Tingshuan Company, Ma Huateng and Xu Chenai were refreshing the task bounty page of Node & Company every once in a while, and they were eagerly waiting, extremely anxious. After a refresh, they suddenly found that the ID called Mr. S turned from gray to bright. The two looked at each other and became excited. Mr. S is online. I hope he can see the private message we sent him earlier. Xu Chenai stared at the screen, rubbing his hands back and forth subconsciously, muttering. Ma Huateng, who was relatively calm and composed, did not make fun of his old classmate and entrepreneurial partner's restlessness. In fact, his mood was not much different from Xu Chenai's. Both of them were computer science majors, and he also understood what it meant to be able to successfully find the loopholes in the Norton software. The top expert in the field of computer security. Absolutely. Compared with foreign countries, China started late in computer security and there is still a big gap between them. Relevant talents are also extremely scarce. And Tingshuan, which had just received a large amount of venture capital not long ago, was now in urgent need of expansion and was eager to recruit talents. Suddenly, such a person who might be a god-level figure appeared before them. How could they not be excited? However, he couldn't help but tease her in a calm and casual tone. Chen Yi, you are one of the company's leaders after all. You should remain calm even when faced with a catastrophe. You can't be so startled. TSK, don't think I don't know that you are anxious too. Xu Chenai replied rudely. Ma Huateng laughed. Yes, I am anxious too. However, it has only been 2 or 3 minutes since he came online. I guess he hasn't seen the private message yet. Be patient and wait a little longer. Xu Chenai nodded. Okay, wait a little longer. At this moment, he suddenly noticed something else and pointed at an ID in Ma Huateng's friend list. Hey, Pony, is this ID the guy Ding Sanche? Ma Huateng was stunned. Ding Sanche is the founder of the large domestic portal website, Wangi, and is an old acquaintance of the two of them. Ma Huateng took a look and said, yes. No, I saw him offline just now, how come he's online all of a sudden? Ma Huateng was also stunned when he heard this. Is it such a coincidence? The two looked at each other, and the same guess emerged in their minds at the same time. They were both stunned. No way. According to Ma Huateng's understanding of Ding Sanche, the latter has a very regular schedule. At this point in time, he should not be in the Hacker Hub, but is about to rest. Unless there is some extremely important and sudden event that requires him to temporarily change his schedule. Could it be that Ding Sanche also noticed the existence of Mr. S? Or even have the same goal as them? If this is true, Tingshuan has little confidence in competing with the much stronger Wangi. Xu Chenai frowned. Hurry up and ask him indirectly. Ma Huateng called out his QQ number 10001 and looked among his few friends. He found a glowing duck avatar, which was Ding Sanche. Looking at this duck avatar, Ma Huateng felt a little complicated. A few years ago, not many people had access to the internet, so the circle was very narrow. Ma Huateng, Ding Sanche, and several other internet giants today all met on the same forum, and their relationship was pretty good. A few years ago, Ding Sanche founded Wangi. A year later, seeing that Ding Sanche made a fortune by developing an email system, Ma Huateng could no longer sit still and used all his fortune to found Tencent. However, Tingshuan's start was not as smooth as Wangi's. It encountered the risk of broken capital chain several times and its growth was extremely difficult. At that time, Wangi was already one of the major internet giants in China, and its stocks were about to be listed in the United States. It was in high spirits. Ma Huateng once approached Ding Sanche, hoping that the latter would lend a helping hand to Tencent, which was in trouble, but was ultimately rejected. Fortunately, not long ago, Tencent received the favor of a foreign investment institution and obtained tens of millions of US dollars in financing, which temporarily bid farewell to the crisis. But because of that incident, there was somewhat of a rift between the two of them. In addition, they are competitors and have various interests involved. Maybe they can never go back. Ma Huateng sighed inwardly. clicked on the dialog box with Duck, and typed, "Old Ding, what are you doing?" Chapter 27, Does the competition have to be so fierce? Soon, the duck flashed and a reply popped up, "Har har, what else can I do? I'm surfing the internet. Do you want to talk to me about something?" Ma Huateng thought for a while, then looked at Shu Chenai in embarrassment. "Why are you beating around the bush? Shu Chenai, you are the boss, think for yourself." Ma Huateng pondered for a few seconds, then typed in a serious tone, "Har har, Lao Ding, we have known each other for several years, so we can be considered old friends who met each other from humble beginnings. In the past, we watched the ups and downs of life together on the internet, and we also met together many times to talk at night." He tried to evoke Duck's revolutionary memories and then changed the subject. The duck was very alert. Okay, don't beat around the bush at night, just say what you want to say." Ma Huateng was calm and asked directly, "Okay, what are you doing in Hacker Hub?" "Nothing, just looking around." The duck laughed, then suddenly became alert. "How did you know I was in the Hacker Hub?" Ma Huateng avoided the main point and said, "Sancha, for the sake of our friendship, how about you promise me one thing?" "Duck, what's the matter? Tell me about it." "Ma Huateng, it's not a big deal, just agree to it first." The duck didn't fall for it. "You tell me first, I'll think about it." "Ma Huateng, if you agree first, I will tell you." The duck refused to listen. "Then don't say anything." Ma Huateng. He was at a loss for a moment. Should he tell the story of Mr. S? If Ding Sancha didn't know about the existence of Mr. S at all, and because of his unnecessary actions, he gained a new competitor, wouldn't that be shooting himself in the foot? Thinking of this, Ma Huateng felt a little annoyed. After struggling for a long time, he finally typed out an ambiguous sentence. "It's like this, these 2 days, I found a talented person in Hacker Hub, don't compete with me." Duck, oh, what a coincidence, I just found a talent in Hacker Hub, don't compete with me. Ma Huateng. Sure enough, this bastard had the same target as himself, and was also targeting Mr. S. He was depressed. "Old Ding, we at Tingshuan are in urgent need of people. Your Wangi is a big company, so you won't compete with us for people, right?" Duck, fair play. Aren't you guys focusing on game development lately? The more talents the better. Besides, such talents can be used everywhere. Ma Huateng. Duck kills people. By the way, I heard that Zhang from Sohu, Hua Jun, and Lei Jun from Kingsoft are also a little interested in that person and have sent him private messages. What? Zhang Chaoyang, Lei Jun, and Hua Jun also want to intervene? Does the competition have to be so fierce? Ma Huateng was completely speechless and quit QQ in frustration. Shu Chenai, who saw the whole chat, also sighed. "It seems that we are not the only ones keeping an eye on Mr., so we can only try our best." Ma Huateng nodded helplessly. The two of them had mixed emotions and could only turn their attention to Hacker Hub. "It's been half an hour, why hasn't he replied yet?" Nearly 2 hours later, Shen Chen uploaded the attachment and clicked the send icon. After a few seconds, the email was sent successfully. When Node & Company receives the email and confirms it is correct, it will ask Shen Chen to submit the bank account number used to receive the bonus. Then, just wait for the bonus to arrive. The next second, Shen Chen suddenly noticed the time. Damn! It's almost 10 o'clock, is it already so late? It's over, if you don't go home, you will face the invincible ear-twisting and life-threatening roar of your mother. So, he ignored the private message notification that popped up in the upper right corner of Hacker Hub, directly cleaned up his traces on the internet, went to the front desk to cancel the machine, and quickly went home without even saying hello to Dalong and the others. Little did he know that at the other end of the network, several internet tycoons were looking at the dimmed ID of Mr. S. They were all confused and dumbfounded. His offline. Did you download it without reading the private message? He's been here for 2 hours. What has he been doing? Isn't it hazy? Their wait was in vain. When going upstairs, Shen Chen took out the reference books and materials he just bought from his school bag and held them in his hands, making them a high stack. As soon as he entered the door, he preemptively shouted, "Dad, help me get it quickly, the book is about to fall." The couple in the living room were stunned for a moment. Shu Qiuxia originally looked angry, but her attention was immediately diverted. "Oh, why are there so many books? Did you buy comics again?" Shen Chen, "No, I picked up some reference materials in the bookstore, so I came back late. I didn't expect it to be so heavy. Shu Qiuxia turned from anger to joy. So that's it, then go ahead and buy more. Oh, Shen Yaoshen, hurry up and help your son get it. Look at how hard he works, how can you be a father? Shen Yaosheng looked at his wife and shook his head, who was angry just now and said that he should educate his son well when he comes back. Shu Qiuxia glared at him. What's the matter with you? I'm just going to say something angry. Why do you keep holding on and trying to sow discord between my son and me? Shen Yaosheng. Don't dare, don't dare. On Sunday morning, rays of sunshine were shining, the campus was peaceful and quiet, and a few melodious bird calls could be heard from time to time. School library. As soon as Shen Chen entered the study room, he saw Xiaoran sitting by the window not far away. She saw him too, waving with bright eyes. When Shen Chen walked over, she smiled and said, "Good morning, have you had breakfast?" Shen Chen said, "Yeah." He put away his school bag and sat down. The little girl asked, "Have you brought the reference materials you bought yesterday?" Shen Chen took out the books one by one and quickly piled them up. She stuck out her tongue. "I was negligent. You should focus on reviewing 2 or 3 courses every day, so you don't have to bring so many books." Shen Chen said nonchalantly, "It's not very heavy." And Xiaoran suddenly thought of another thing. In the second year of high school, arts and sciences will be divided into classes. Shen Chen, are you going to study arts or science? Why do you ask? If you want to study science, we can focus on language and mathematics, and don't spend too much time on other subjects. And Xiaoran thought to herself, of course I have to ask. If you study liberal arts, I will study liberal arts. If you study science, I will study science. In the future, I will go to the same university as you. Shen Chen asked back, what about you? And Xiaoran hesitated. I haven't thought about it yet, you should tell me yours first. Shen Chen glanced at her lightly and teased her, I won't tell you. And Xiaoran. She pouted a little and snorted. Bad guy. Shen Chen raised his head and glanced at the angry little girl across from him. There was a smile in his dark eyes, but his face was calm and he asked, okay, what are you going to study today? And Xiaoran suddenly lost his temper. Tutoring for Shen Chen was the most important thing.